Buenos dias.
Hey, Brian, you're not saying anything.
No, I wasn't sure. I was.
Are you supposed to growl?
Like a roar, because growling is the next show.
Yes, the next show.
And
but you can go, yeah.
I wasn't sure, but Andy said it was just him that was supposed to do
I
that.
said I am the roar. Roar!
Okay.
Yeah.
That's me,
So
which Emily has adopted now as her own.
I'm coming back on Tuesday. So just to clarify and sort this out, this is the show that when it starts, we go, yeah!
Yeah. Or and whatever you feel like. You can come in and say, wow.
All right.
Whatever you want to do to get you ready.
Over?
I mean, you can. Can we start over, Jorge?
Yeah! Just so much changes in between my appearances here that I'm not always up to speed.
This is a wonderful start.
And with that screeching halt, Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis
You've got
and Sliwa.
no one else.
Indeed. Big reaction Friday. A lot going on over the last 24 hours.
Oh?
With all of your sports. You got Rams with a big win over the Saints yesterday, 30-22. Not quite in the playoffs yet, but they are putting themselves in a really good position, not just to get into the mix, but actually setting up a very all-the-feels matchup in the first round of the playoffs. To get into that, the Lakers lose last night without LeBron in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. But, as we will talk about, there were some positives potentially to take away from this loss, although, as Anthony Davis noted, Saturday, they need to get their bleep together.
Yes.
Like now. He called Saturday against Oklahoma City in OKC. They need to treat it like a must-win game.
Which is absolutely what you want to hear about games before Christmas. Like, they're that important at this point. That's the state that we've reached.
It may not be ideal, but talked about it. I actually am glad that AD said this. But let's start with what could be the most just earth-shattering, changing news of LA sports for like the next decade. The Dodgers said, we'll see our own Shohei Ohtani, and we will raise you a Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They come to an agreement. 12 years, $325 million, plus an extra $50 million posting fee for Yamamoto just for his trouble. 12 years, $375 million. The 25-year-old right-hander who has won 3 consecutive MVP and the Japanese equivalent of Cy Young awards, has dominated the leagues over in Japan. Over 820 and a third innings, he has posted a 1.65 ERA and has struck out nearly 5 times as many batters as he's walked. He has only allowed 1 home run per every 28 innings. Like, Lance Lynn cannot wrap his head around that.
Lance Lynn gives up a home run every 3 batters.
He has the opposite. It's the opposite. It's 28 home runs for every 1 inning.
Right. God, he's so ridiculous. But and by the way, this deal has opt-outs after years 6 and 8, so after the 2029 season and the 2031 season, and it's backloaded. Somewhat.
This is, you wonder, we're right around Christmas if the Dodgers are like dipping into the eggnog a little bit, because this is a very unusual commitment for them, to say the least, to a pitcher. To go 12 years to a pitcher, particularly when they really, they've seen him, but that hasn't played in this league. That is an enormous commitment, and shows you kind of, I think, what the Ohtani signing does, like the impetus it puts on for winning today.
Well, and also, too, the way that money is deferred for Ohtani, and I've said this many times, I want to see the Dodgers books, because I just want to see how you are planning for all of this, like how you go about figuring out, okay, in 10 years, we are going to start paying a guy $60-something million a year not to play for us.
But it's only probably $58 million once you factor in inflation.
You
hire a few high school chemistry teachers, you open a few car washes, and you're good to go.
That's what I want to see. Like, next year at the concessions with the Dodgers, it's going to be all cash. you're going to be watching. You going to ring that up?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
None of your business.
How
Keep
much
it
is that
moving.
hot dog?
How much is that michelada? That's
$600.
I tell you, you better bring a credit report and all of your bank info if you want to order a beer at Dodger Stadium coming up, because paying for Shohei Ohtani, paying for Yamamoto, paying for Glasnow. Like Glasnow's contract under any other circumstances would be talked about
It's
a lot.
$25 million, right?
20 for a pitcher will be in his mid-30s with some pretty extensive injuries. We're not even talking about that dude.
He's only pitched over 100 innings twice in his career, like over 100 innings.
So he's due.
So yeah,
He's
he's right. We would normally be talking a lot about that, but there's just two guys that have $1 billion in contract with them in 22 years.
This is very exciting.
And to Brian's point, too, the idea of this level of excitement over Yamamoto, and it is legitimately exciting. Like, this guy sounds like he can be an absolutely game-changing pitcher for the Dodgers, like a game-changing phenomenon in baseball. Nobody who's excited over this guy has seen him. Like, we are all collectively excited over a guy that, if we're all being honest, other than maybe if you've like gone to YouTube and typed in Yamamoto, none of us have seen this guy pitch at all.
And yet, all of us are experts in him.
Of course.
We know everything there is to know about the guy and whether or not this is a good idea or a terrible one.
So the thing is that we know that Shohei Ohtani was the right thing to do. You give him all the money, you do the backload, all that kind of deal. But he did that so you could bring in Yamamoto. He deferred all that money so that the Dodgers could go out and get guys that he wanted to make. He said, if I come here and I do this, I need pitchers because I'm not going to be able to pitch for another year. I need pitchers so we can go deep into the playoffs. Got Glasnow, got Yamamoto. He's doing all, and I'm going to tell you this right now. They're not done. I guarantee that there's other guys that they're going to go after, whether it's more hitting, more outfielders, but there will be more pitchers that come in. Guys like Lucas Giolito could be somebody that they bring in and try and fix. And Walker Buehler is going to come back.
At this point, when you've devoted this much resource to a team, like, you might as well grab every single person possible because the team is already insanely expensive and the expectations are already so damn high. Just cover your bases on every single, like, at this point, the money doesn't matter.
Right. Well, what's funny about this too is, like, because it's baseball, it's still kind of a crapshoot. But, like, like there is no guaranteeing you can actually win a World Series. But I mean, I don't think, and Greg, you'd know better than me, they've obviously done the money part of things, especially just between Yamamoto and Ohtani. But they also have the farm system. Like, the Dodgers always have a two-pronged way of getting stuff done. They can spend money, but they also have a phenomenal farm system that they can use to acquire guys through trades. I mean, that's the other half of this equation that they haven't leaned into yet.
It's going to be so interesting just to see how they operate as an organization because, like you mentioned before, Brian, like, this type of deal for a pitcher is something the Dodgers just don't do. Now, granted, it is rare to have a pitcher this good, this young.
Right. You don't have an opportunity to sign a guy who's 25 very often.
I mean, like, the context is very specific and different, but it's still very opposite of what the Dodgers typically do. And a team this stacked, they're about to enter a level of scrutiny that, I don't think the Dodgers have ever seen before. Like, it's going to be difficult to think of teams that have faced this level of scrutiny moving forward. Like, every single game is going to be a 5-alarm fire of reaction.
Look, they're going to win because, I mean, look, this year they weren't supposed to be that. This is a down year for the Dodgers. They're
saving all their money for Ohtani.
Right, they did. And they went out and they still ran away with the division and all that stuff that they seem to do every year. They're going to do that again this year. They're going to win the West. They're going to make the playoffs, and all that other stuff. And literally they could win 17 games in a row in July. And the reaction to that is going to be what happens in September, what happens in October. Nobody is going to care about their results, assuming they're not catastrophic. Nobody is going to care about a single result that they have until October. That is pressure.
Yeah, it's going to be just okay, Bergman.
Yeah.
Dare I say, do we take some calls on this?
I mean, you're more than welcome to. I'll answer every single one. But by the way, this is the same pressure. It's different because there's higher level players, but that's what it has been for the last 5 years.
No. You are correct.
No, it was championship, but it's always been championship or bust. And if they lose at any point, I don't care what happens until October. Last year was very much that. This just makes it larger. It's still championship or bust.
But it's exponentially that much bigger when you've got a guy that is considered quite possibly the greatest player ever in his prime, signed to $700 million.
Everyone is on the hot seat
$2 million
except for Andrew Friedman.
It's $2 million next year. It's $2 million. So really, is it that high leverage if it's only $2 million?
It's true. Ohtani's walking around being like, sorry, guys, you got to pick up the tab. I'm not making any money this year.
I got nothing.
I got nothing coming in.
All right, select calls. We will take some select calls because it is a reaction Friday, and there is actually around LA sports an awful lot
it's bonkers.
to react to. But coming up next, I want to talk a little bit about that scrutiny that this team is going to be facing and just like what everybody is going to have to be prepared to step into for this team, particularly, too, when you're talking about a player like Ohtani, who is now going to be the face of this organization, but somebody that is, I don't know what he's like in a clubhouse, but I know as far as front-facing, he's never in front of anybody. And that's a really interesting dynamic in and of itself. Talk about that. Travis and Sliwa, Kamenetsky Brothers in for the guys, 710 ESPN.
Gonna eat a lot for Christmas, especially the mac and cheese, honey ham and mashed potatoes, 3 or 4 tamales, please.
on, man. Just keeping it real, guys.
Weird Alita Yankovic over here. Who is that?
It's just something I saw on Instagram by her name is Jenny Solares, I think. But yeah, she's just keeping it real for Christmas. She's like, yeah, just three or four tamales. Yeah, why not?
That
Bring out
reminds
the
me,
stretchy
I got to pick up some tamales for our Christmas.
Yeah.
I need to take care of that.
Yes, you do.
Kamenetsky brothers, Andy Kamenetsky and Brian Kamenetsky in for Travis and
You need to go
Sliwa.
do that now. I understand.
Actually, I need to take care of that because I just realized I promised that I would take care of that.
Yeah, I'm saying if you
And
need,
I actually have not. And need
time
to-
is short.
Yes, I need to remedy that now. I have a very, very bad feeling the place that I plan to go to, they are
Sold out?
long since sold out, or these tamales are going to cost me the same thing as a michelada coming up at Dodger Stadium now that they're in the Otani and Yamamoto
Maybe you could
business.
defer payment
Yes.
in the same way the Dodgers have.
All right, so we were talking before about just the excitement over the Dodgers now moving forward with Otani and Yamamoto, and even bring in a guy like Tyler Glass now, who at this point just feels like an absolute afterthought. But the way this team is becoming stacked, the expectations and scrutiny for this team, like Greg, I realized before you were saying that for the Dodgers, it's always World Series or bust, and they have faced a lot of criticism. In particular, Dave Roberts takes a lot of heat for when they don't end up getting back to the World Series, where they don't end up winning at all, where it feels like the last decade has been performing below expectations, and I get that. But this is about to hit a level that I'm not sure in my lifetime, or certainly in my lifetime in LA, being aware of how the Dodgers are seen in this city. I think the Dodgers are about to reach a place that I've never witnessed before.
So I think you're right on that, but at the same time, how much higher is the expectations can they get? I mean, so all these contracts, 10 years for Otani, 12 years for Yamamoto, I think it's 7 years for Glasnow, all of that stuff. How many wins do they need total? They probably, if they get
162.
No. If the World Series championships, if they get 3, you're saying all of it was complete success. You want more, obviously, but it's a complete success. I think that this now becomes Yankees territory, where you have to win 4 out of 5 kind of deal and be dominant for an extended period of time, winning World Series, or it kind of just feels a little rough.
If you win 2 in the next 5.
Yeah, I'm happy. Great.
No,
love it.
No, I don't think that's. I think a lot of people will be disappointed by that.
Yes,
I
they will.
think Dodger fans will not be. I think 2 and 5. Well, it depends what the other 3 years are. What happens in the other 3 years? Do they miss
don't
the
win
playoffs?
the World Series.
Well, do they make
they're
the
never
World Series?
They're never going to miss. Short of
Exactly.
catastrophic injury, they are not going to miss the playoffs.
Do they make the World Series in those 3 years?
You mean where it becomes like a thing,
You're
the Lakers
there.
in the 80s?
Yeah.
Where basically every year
Yep.
they were in the finals, whether they won or not. They're probably in the finals
Success.
7 times that decade.
Right. That's a success. And you win 2 or 3 of those in those 5 to 10 years, everybody's going to be happy. 3 is the bare minimum.
3 and 5 is okay, but 3 and 10, I don't think people are going to look at 3 and 10 as a success.
Absolutely. 3, if you get 3 World Series championships, it is a success.
You should. I don't think that's going to. I don't think
I
that
agree
clears
with
the
Brian.
bar.
I think you are underestimating the expectations and
5 World Series. When was the last time somebody won a back-to-back?
Doesn't
when
World
is
matter.
the last time a team was this stacked?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, you can look at the Yankees. So this is the same thing.
But particularly in LA, where we are still fundamentally kind of a Lakers, like the Lakers
It's
impact
1-A,
the
1-B
mentality
Dodgers, Lakers.
of how people look at winning. Because in basketball, if you go out and you sign the equivalent of Otani and Yamamoto in basketball, that basically puts you in the finals every year because 1 or 2 people dictate who wins the title. In baseball, it's different. And so the reality is they could only win 3 and 10 because weird stuff happens, and somebody's going to have a series against the Dodgers where they pitch like Yamamoto when they're not supposed to and hit like Otani when they're not supposed to, and all of a sudden the Dodgers lose. And that's going to happen. But I think the expectation now among Dodgers fans is every year we don't win the World Series is a disappointment.
Yeah, I mean,
all of them.
Think about how little excuses that Dodger fans allowed the Dodgers pre-Otani and Yamamoto. Now you've got this guy who is considered, forget the best player in baseball. He might be seen, if he can get back to that form where he is pitching and hitting, the best player ever. He's certainly the most unique player in modern baseball history. And you've got this pitcher who just dominated the Japanese leagues, not even in his prime yet, on top of Betts, on top of Freeman, on top of everybody else.
Bueller's, presumably going to come back one day, and May is going to come back one day, and all these other, you still might have a year or two of Kershaw somewhere mixed in here.
Somewhere, yeah.
And they'll make trades.
Look, I'll give you this. This year, 2024, I think the expectations for Dodger fans and just baseball fans in general is that the Dodgers have to win the World Series in 2024. After that is when it starts to kind of go up and down. You win 20, you have to still continue to win and get there, but I think everybody will still be just happy and excited after 3. But I think 4 or 5 is what you're like, all right, this was perfect.
4 or 5.
4 or 5 is perfect. 3 is absolutely acceptable, and you're not going to be upset.
But still,
anything less is a disappointment.
Right, but that speaks to what we were talking about in the beginning, because with the randomness of baseball, trying to plan for winning 30% of the World Series over 10 years is insanely difficult, and that is going to be the baseline.
30 is the bare minimum.
Right, that's going to be the baseline for sort of meeting expectations.
This is the thing that I think is going to be fascinating about this. When you have these kinds of expectations, this is where I think like the burden on guys like Freeman and Betts and others. How do you have fun? How do you enjoy? Like, baseball is a grind. It is, it is like a death march for 9 months. Like, and if every time you have a 2-game losing streak, the entire baseball media world is descending on you, like, what is wrong?
And there's about to be, by the way, more literal baseball media in that clubhouse.
Yes.
Like, it's going to be standing room
like
only,
how,
probably 2 sections.
The ability
everyone.
to make this still fun and enjoyable and get out there and keep a clubhouse from being so tight that it can't perform. This like Dave Roberts' managerial challenges, the leadership challenges on this team are going to be heavy.
Yeah,
heavy.
I want to make it clear. Like, this is really fun and exciting to look forward to. Like, I can't wait to see what this team looks like.
I believe the technical term is first world problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be amazing to watch, but it's also just going to be really interesting to see how everybody involved reacts to this place where they're in right now, where you're not even considered the front runner. It's like, how the hell do you not win it all?
Yeah, they're going to absolutely have to. But the thing is, like, they've been criticized over the last few years of being too workmanlike. So, to Brian, to your point, to keep it fun for the guys there, they have to find a way to do that and still have that workmanlike attitude. Like, the Patriots they were winning all these championships, but everyone said it was terrible to play there because it was so hardcore all the time because you had to win or it was a disappointment. That's kind of what's happening with the Dodgers now. You are now in a situation where you have to win. So, keeping it fun, I don't even think that's possible. Like, you guys can do outs, but at the same time, like, you're not going to be bouncing around.
Every first pitch in October, Mookie Betts pulls the guys over and he's like, look, a rabbi, a priest, and a minister walk into a bar.
All right, 877-710-ESPN. We got some people waiting. We will take your calls coming up next. What are your expectations of this Dodgers season heading forward, where they are now officially, I think we can say, bonkers stacked with Yamamoto now joining Ohtani? It's really exciting, but expectations are through the roof. Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
Big news, Laker fans. John Ireland here. You can now stream every Lakers game on the ESPN LA app. Don't miss a second of the action with Michael Thompson and I on the call. Plus, all your live and local Lakers talk every day in the palm of your hand.
You're one tap away from everything Lakers.
You could even win Lakers tickets.
Download the ESPN LA app. And bam!
Download the ESPN LA app at the App Store and Google Play.
I love you, Ohtani.
Now's a good time.
Yup.
Can I get a photo of you holding that up?
So the Boca Raton Bowl was last night, and the Syracuse Orange faced the Southern. The South Florida Bulls, and the South Florida Bulls absolutely destroyed Syracuse in that game.
That's right.
By quarterback for the Bulls led them to a 45-0 win after he went 19 of 26, 214 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So the South Florida Bulls take out the Syracuse Orange in the Boca Raton Bowl.
How annoyed would you have been if this morning if I said, sorry, I missed the Yamamoto news and the Laker game and the Rams game last night because I was watching South Florida versus Syracuse?
I would not be upset at all, because then you'd have a lot to say about this game. And this College Football Corner and all coverage of bowl season on 710 is powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change, home of the 15-minute drive-through oil change. Visit SoCal Oil Change for locations and to score game-winning coupons.
Like a left-handed relief specialist, I'm pouring all of my energy into this segment and all of my preparation.
Hey, everybody needs their niche.
That's right. And my niche is South Florida football in Los Angeles.
Syracuse Orange.
Right. Good for them.
Yeah,
go Bulls.
Why not?
And the Boca Raton Bowl, that's a big bowl for us around here.
Del Boca Vista. That's all I ever think about. That's where the Seinfelds live. The Seinfeld
Del
parents.
Boca Vista Phase 4.
Yes, down in Florida. And
just picture a lot of people in the crowd going, "Hey, go!"
Oh man,
it's so humid.
And play the Seinfeld music again. Transitioning. big
smooth.
There is somebody in their car going, "Guys, no!
Wrong show.
This is what I want to listen to."
It's probably the Valvoline people.
Break it down.
But, all right, so the Dodgers, big news yesterday. They are bringing in Yamamoto, 12 years, $375 million if you count the $50 million posting fee. That goes to the team, correct?
No, the posting fee goes to the team, yeah.
All right,
little price of doing business.
He had a $50 million signing bonus, too.
Right. Oh. Wow. There's a lot of money.
You get a car. You get a car. And you get a car.
So much money being tossed around by the Dodgers right now, which speaks to the expectations for this team heading into the season. Take some calls, 877-710 ESPN. Dodger fans, your reaction just waves arms around everything happening with this team at this moment. Luis in Los Alamitos, you're on Travis and Sliwa with the Kamenetsky brothers. What's up, Luis?
Morning. 2 quick things. Number one, usually I'm the type of fan that wants to win it with homegrown players. Obviously, I'm stoked on Ohtani. Then I heard Yamamoto. I'm happy, but I'm kind of done a quick 180. I'm like, let's go get everyone. Let's go get Giolito. Let's go get the closer from the Guardians. I'm all in, just like the Dodgers. So excited for the season. And the second thing is, it was crazy how everything transitioned last night. The Rams won. I'm a diehard Rams fan, so I was so happy about the Rams winning. And then within 10 or 15 minutes, the Yamamoto news broke. So it was a great night to be an LA fan, besides the Lakers losing as always. So happy to be an LA fan. Happy to be a Rams and Dodgers fan. Thanks,
Lakers catching strays.
Speaks to where the Lakers are right now, where you hear the Lakers lose like always. Woo.
I mean,
they've lost 4
No, I know.
Five of six.
I'm not saying Luis is
my
wrong. I'm just saying it speaks to where they are right now.
And it's important to note they're not just losing; they're generally losing fairly decisively.
Although last night
was better. Yeah.
Last night, we'll get into the Lakers later on for sure. But last night, I thought there actually were some positives for the Lakers. And actually, again, this is not a moral victory thing. They need to start winning
I don't know.
now.
There's a Rob on line 2 who wants to talk about Yamamoto. So I'm not sure we're really encouraged to get back into the Lakers here.
But there were some positives last night in that loss that I think, if nothing else, the Lakers could use to build on moving forward, rediscover what they looked like when they were at their best earlier in the season. Aaron in Vegas, you're on Travis and Sliwa with the Kamenetsky brothers. What's up?
Hey, Cam, B-Cam, what's up, guys? Just so excited as a longtime listener to all 3 shows all day. When I moved to Vegas, it was kind of a way for me to stay connected to the LA scene, LA sports. And yeah, just watching Rams yesterday, seeing Shohei at the game, it was like, is there even a Lakers game on tonight? And then to see that they got Yamamoto, I mean, knowing that this is all from Shohei's deferment. his AAV would be 70. It is really 45. 45 plus 27 equals 72. Right?
Sure.
So, I think I kind of have to stay with Greg on his side on this one, though. I don't think it really adds a whole lot of pressure to this team because, like he's saying, it's win or bust for our team every year for the last decade. And yeah, we picked up some more haters in the last couple of days, and all of Japan seemingly is going to love us. So win-win.
I think we come out ahead.
Trade-off there.
There are more people in Japan than there are haters.
Look, I'll say this: the hater end of this,
Right?
this is bad. I appreciate the call, Aaron. Like the idea that this is bad for baseball. The Dodgers just buying their way toward. Screw it. Every single fan base would love to see their team do this. Like,
well, look, the Dodgers are rich and smart. Like this, they aren't just spending money. They've laid the groundwork for this kind of stuff. They've built up a farm system. Like everything they do is in sort of the purpose of being able to pull off this kind of maneuver at some point. And they're still going to have Bobby Miller and, I'm presuming they're assuming he comes back and he's healthy. There's a spot in the lineup for Gavin Lux, and there'll be other guys that come from the farm system. And Will Smith is going to be you can still find domestic players, from the system that you can attach yourself to.
Well, look,
it's fine.
The other thing you said that the Dodgers are rich and smart. At the bare minimum, you know what these other owners are? Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Like these other owners can go around, maybe not spending quite at this level, but a lot of them can go around spending more than they do. That is a choice. If you don't like it in terms of how it affects your team, go yell at your team's ownership. The Dodgers' ownership is not the problem.
No.
You should be, in a lot of ways, you should be inspired. If you're not a fan of the Dodgers, you should be inspired by what they do, and you should be angered that your team isn't doing it, because chances are your team could do more of what the Dodgers are doing than they actually do. That's the bottom line.
I mean, those people are jealous.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, in the most literal sense, they are jealous of what the Dodgers are doing. That is why they hate it. All right. What is next? We got Ask Cambros?
Ask Cambros. You got a little time still. You got nothing left? You can switch over to a different sport if you like.
Ask me more about South Florida football.
Who is their starting tailback?
I don't think it's a spread offense. I think they throw the ball a lot.
Well done. See, I totally believe that.
It's a rotation. It's a committee.
Jorge, okay, you were in SoFi last night, right?
No, I was here.
You were here? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get any word, or Greg? Did you get any word about Yamamoto in the building? Do we have confirmation that Yamamoto was with Ohtani in SoFi?
So we don't have confirmation, but there are sources on sources on sources that all are saying that he, in fact, was in the building. And because he was in the building, this is another big fat X onto John Heyman, who was very adamant to the fact that he is not, in capital letters, not going. Yamamoto will not be at SoFi. And if the sources are correct and he was there, once again, John Heyman lying to the public.
I love this totally one-sided feud that you have with John Heyman.
Oh, it's not one-sided. He knows exactly who I am.
Do we know? I was about to say, do we know for sure that John Heyman doesn't hate Bergman?
I know. See, exactly. I think he knows, hey, this is a very large radio station with a big reach. He hears it.
If I can
Greg is management. He's a pretty big wheel down here.
If I can get Heyman on.
Probably shouldn't talk it like this then.
I want to have Heyman on. I want to have you two hash it out, because you have very publicly thrown out a lot of grievances towards John Heyman.
He's wrong. He's wrong a lot. I can't trust somebody that's wrong. If you're going to put it out there that you're an inside source and you have inside sources and then go and are consistently wrong.
And yet you work with Mason.
Well, but Mason is not a newsbreaker.
He's not a story. Yeah, he's wrong a lot.
He is wrong a lot. But I think we are all wrong a lot. But we are not.
We're not held to any standard.
No.
Thank
we're
God
not
for that.
We're not reporters. We're not supposed to be informed. We're supposed to just react.
Yeah, we say what we feel.
Right.
Like Ken Rosenthal, he gets something wrong every once in a while. I think he even said that that Yamamoto was also not going to be there. But I trust Ken Rosenthal. He has been right enough times with big stuff that I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Or I forgive you for the one wrong thing.
What's the threshold though? Because like in the grand scheme of things, like Yamamoto is not going to be a Dodger is much more important than Yamamoto is not at a football game.
Right. But
like,
it
what's
just
the
fits
threshold?
the narrative that he's wrong always.
Heyman?
Yeah, Heyman. Yeah. So if somebody else was doing it, like not going to be a Dodger and it ends up a Dodger, wouldn't trust him. Just like if you say Shohei Ohtani is going to be a Blue Jay and then he doesn't end up being a Blue Jay, I don't trust you anymore.
That was such a stupid thing.
It was very stupid.
He's going to be a Blue Jay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seemed possible.
I mean, a lot of things are possible.
No, the reason that I thought it was possible that he could be a Blue Jay, it was it's a really international market.
It is.
And they're a solid team. It's an international market. You have the opportunity, to whatever degree this would matter to Ohtani, to be potentially the biggest athlete in a country, like in another country, beyond being the biggest baseball player in America, the biggest baseball player in Japan. But given the type of secrecy that Ohtani very clearly cares about and demands everybody around him help maintain, you can do that a lot easier with the Blue Jays.
The only reason you go to Toronto is if you want to disappear. You do not want to be in a market where people pay attention to, where you don't want to be the biggest athlete in Canada, where you could still be a hockey player, but you don't want any of those things. You want to get all the money and have literally nobody pay attention to you. That's the only reason you go to Toronto.
Right. And that is at least believable for Ohtani. Like, that is a believable motivation to go to Toronto.
I'll be honest with you. That's how I would do it. If I'm getting the same amount of money and just have everybody forget about me while I'm doing it. I mean, that sounds perfect.
They have a really good young team.
It's a good team. It's a very good team.
I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, that made it believable. Ohtani and the Blue Jays is he wouldn't be theoretically joining a bad team.
No, he would be joining an anonymous team.
Right. Which again, for Ohtani, felt
maybe
believable.
A good thing.
Well, you asked before, why would anybody believe it? That's why.
The only reason to do it is if you want to disappear. Like, that's it.
He has seemed often like somebody who enjoys disappearing. Can we agree on that? I was looking to do it a couple minutes ago. I was going to do it a couple minutes ago.
Andy
but anyway.
decides when the segments are over, and if they're over after 3 minutes, they're over.
Tell me to drive the show.
You adjust the clock accordingly. Andy's in charge here. He is the captain now.
I am the captain now. All right, coming up next, Ask Cam Brothers. Either hit us up on Twitter at Cam Brothers, or
our South Florida football line is open.
710 ESPN. Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
Wednesday, Friday at 10:45. Ask Slee, and Ask Slee is presented by our friends at Harrah's Resort SoCal. Find your funner state of mind with a visit to Harrah's Resort SoCal. Voted best resort in funner California. From dining to unwinding, you'll find fun around every corner. Learn more at harrahssocal.com. Let's get to it. Ask Slee right now.
All right, this first one, guys, is going to come from Chrissy at Clumsy Chrissy. She asked the Cam brothers, have you ever pranked someone or been pranked? Have you ever pranked each other?
The answer for me is pretty much no to all of them.
Really?
I'm not a pranker because pranks, to do them well, it feels like a lot of work. Like, honestly,
so you're lazy.
Yes.
Okay.
Like it is a lot, for me at least, it feels like a lot of work.
I think that's self-evident, don't you?
It's just the energy required, I think, to pull off a really good prank, like one that's worth your time, is just more than what I am willing to invest. Like I for the most part, like the 5-second reaction of seeing somebody realize they're being pranked is not worth all of the efforting. Like, remember the show Punk'd?
Yeah.
Punk'd?
Like, that was elaborate, though.
But that's my point. Like, that's the only reason that people cared about what was going on in Punk'd is all of the work that went into
so
pulling off
elaborate.
those
So, like,
pranks.
all the details that you have to do. Because otherwise, it's like you put, like, chocolate pudding on somebody's seat, and then they sit on it and you pooped yourself. Like, that's not funny.
I mean, it's kind of funny.
Speak for yourself, man.
Actually,
it's hilarious.
When I was in high school, that would have been hilarious.
I guess that is kind of funny. Now that I think about it. I don't prank, but I've done things like when my oldest was born.
Yeah.
My wife is Catholic and I'm Jewish, and so we were going back for the baby naming, and I 100% convinced her that part of the tradition of the Jewish baby naming is the rabbi throws the baby up in the air, and like you have to catch it. You have to catch the baby. They throw it 3 times up in the air, and you have to catch it. And she 100% bought it because I sold it very
how high
earnestly.
into the air did they throw the baby?
See,
it's up to the rabbi.
To me, that's not a prank. Like, to me, it would have been a prank if you'd had the rabbi take a fake baby and throw
and
your
drop
baby. Yeah, a prank.
Oh man. I wonder if Rabbi Stiffman had dolls that he could have used.
That's
for
what
that.
I'm saying. What you did was just lie to your wife comedically, but you lied.
Yeah,
a prank would have been a fake baby.
Well, a better prank at the least. Or I could have just put chocolate pudding on her seat and let her sit in it. You put
I've done a few things. In high school, when my Spanish teacher had like an Arrowhead bottle, just the plastic Arrowhead bottles, I took a pin and I just put little holes around the top of it. So when she would drink, all the water would pour out the sides. So I thought that was pretty funny. I did to my brother.
What was your grade in Spanish?
And that didn't go well, that Spanish class. Yeah. Pretty much so. To my brother, I would... He ate Lucky Charms all the time. Our cat food looked exactly like the non-marshmallow pieces.
Oh, that's good. Come on, man.
That's not a prank. That's just mean.
It's unsafe.
So he'd eat the cat.
So just for fun, I replaced the Lucky Charms with straight razors.
It was so good.
When you put it in milk, tell.
So those were some of the things that I used
One
to
time I put chocolate pudding in a chair, and I said, "Ha! You pooped yourself."
Actually,
they're harmless. They're harmless. I know Travis.
Until you have to walk around.
As the person who has to go through all the effort to do them.
Oh, but it makes you laugh. It's so good. All right, what you got, Jorge?
All right, this was from Raider Rubin. What would you spend $1 billion on if you had that kind of income?
1 billion or 1 million?
Billion with a B.
billion.
Man, it's funny. Like, for me, a lot of the FU money purchases that you see people typically do, like, insane fleet of cars and stuff like that. Like, I have no interest in that. Like, I might upgrade my current car. But
I'd have probably more than one. Like, I'd have a car I could drive to the mountains. I'd have a car I could drive around town.
But like,
my minivan would be so tricked out.
I'm not like a big toys person, like that sort of thing. Like, I've always said my big FU money purchase would be like a wall size aquarium Like, that's the thing I would want. And I guess now with $1 billion, the walls would be much bigger.
Yeah.
Like, I'd have a larger home with the type of walls that I could have that type of aquarium. That's always the thing that I go to. Or, like, I would want super high-end, elaborate kitchen stuff because I love to cook. But most people, their reaction would be, I'd never cook another day in my life because I have $1 billion.
Here's what I would do. If I had $1 billion, I would get 1 million people and 1 million chairs and 1 million cups of pudding. And I would sit them all down and I would look at them and say, you all pooped yourself. And I could afford to do that because I have $1 billion.
You can afford to have no friends.
You absolutely do. All right. This one is from Jason Torres and says, in the movie Mr. Deeds discovers his... Stop making me laugh. Deeds discovers his uncle had a water fountain of Hawaiian Punch. If you had said fountain, what would be your choice of beverage that's non-alcoholic?
Oh my God, that actually sounds delightful.
That sounds
A
great.
Hawaiian Punch fountain?
Probably iced tea. A fountain of iced tea I would get a lot of use out of. Either that or I love sparkling water. Like, I would have it so each part of the fountain is a different flavor of the sparkling water. Like, you have all sorts of different flavors coming out of the different fountain
Like
spouts.
those new
The
machines
bubblies?
that you have
Yes.
now, like where you press the button. If we could actually go back to the previous question and what would I do if I had $1 billion, I would have a Hawaiian Punch fountain. Like, stuff like that. Like, that's what I would spend my money on. Like, that sounds delightful. I love the idea of a Hawaiian Punch fountain.
What would yours be, Greg?
Sprite. That's what I drink just typically all the time.
Sprite guy, eh?
Yeah, Sprite guy, eh? Yeah, love the Sprite, eh? Yes, very much that. Jorge?
Coca-Cola, most likely.
Yeah. I mean, I drink a lot of Coke Zero.
Yes.
I just don't know if I'd want a fountain of, like, that's probably not healthy.
None of them.
I mean, none of it is, man.
I don't think it's about the health aspect of what we're going with here.
I mean, you're very fountain. Like, you are allowed to go to other spots and resources.
You just have the fountain.
Like, it's not a punishment. You're not there just to drink Hawaiian Punch for eternity.
That's it. You
It's just
didn't-
an option for
you
fun.
No, have Hawaiian Punch.
We got time for one more. This is from Anthony Gaeta. He says, what setting do you set your toaster at? That's kind of an odd question.
No, it's a really interesting. Are you a dark toast kind of person or a light toast?
Light toast.
Right.
Light
Toast is the right way.
Light because you can always add more.
Yeah.
You can't take the toast out, so to speak.
This is a quality of bread question, because the lower quality bread, the more you got to be careful about over toasting. The thinner your bread, the more, because you're not making croutons here. You got to, but if you have a nice thick, like brioche or something that you're toasting, you can afford to get that like a little crust on there because you still got a nice soft interior. I've thought about this like I've thought about South Florida football. Like, I've really invested a lot of time. No, but I can't answer that question as directly as he would like, because you have to tell me about the bread.
That is the answer.
First.
The answer
It's a
is
toaster question,
what
man.
kind. Well, no. The answer is it is not as simple as one
Right.
setting.
You
It's
are
about
not.
the bread,
You're
the setting.
missing the point. If it's just about settings for you, you're missing the point. The point is the bread and the cut.
This is what I find fascinating. There was a question about what you would do with $1 billion, and you're like, I don't know. I'd figure something out. Where do you put your toaster at? Whoa.
I'll tell you what I'd have is I'd have damn good
have.
bread so that I have some toast every day.
Because here's the thing: the odds of either one of us ending up with $1 billion is a lot lower than us having to figure out how to toast whatever bread.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's true.
These are things I've had to actually give thought to, because as much as I would love $1 billion, I resigned myself to the idea that it ain't going to happen. Like, so there's only so much planning I have to put into my $1 billion.
I think you
dream
divide
world.
people up into two categories. If you have $1 billion, so you're either like, you will never see me again, or like, I'm going to try to be like famous, this guy, that guy, whatever. Like, which category are you? If you had $1 billion,
I'm gone. See ya.
Yep.
Bye. I'm
Whereas,
living
like,
in
Elon
Hawaii.
Musk, $1 billion, he wants to be seen constantly.
Wants the attention.
Like, he has the ability to disappear, and he has clearly decided, I will never disappear. Like, it's very important to him to be seen. Like, you are correct. There are two types of billionaires. There's either...
He also seems like the kind of person who would line up 1 million people, put pudding on their seat, and say, you pooped yourself.
You're really liking that joke. It was funny the first time, really funny the first time. Second time, it was still pretty good, and then now
but by the 7th or 8th time, it will circle back. We've got 2 hours left. Trust me.
The time for 8 more pudding jokes.
Yep, and we're gonna the P1s. It'll pay off for them. Don't worry.
Assuming any of them are still left.
That's why they're that's why they're P1s, Andy.
Ironically,
they've stuck through much worse than this.
I'm certainly going to test that theory. All right, coming up, the Rams gave those P1s and everyone in Los Angeles something to be excited about. 30-22 win over the Saints. Looking playoff bound. Talk about a team that surpassed expectations. We'll get into that coming up next. Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
Big news, Laker fans. John Ireland here. You can now stream every Lakers game on the ESPN LA app. Don't miss a second of the action with Michael Thompson and I on the call. Plus, all your live and local Lakers talk every day in the palm of your hand.
You're one tap away from everything Lakers.
You could even win Lakers tickets.
Download the ESPN LA app and bam!
Download the ESPN LA app at the App Store and Google Play.
Chairs are bouncy.
Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa. Brian quite literally jumping around in his chair. It's about to say something. I don't want to steer us back to that conversation.
Hit the switches on the side. It'll go down.
Oh, let's try that.
Lowrider chair.
Oh, there you go, man.
Now I can't bounce though.
Brian's essentially right now trying to add hydraulics to his chair. Like,
just over here stealing money.
This is amazing, and when you guys do your roast at Mandy's 3, this is very much going to be in the background. You just bouncing around in your
That's
chair.
right. We're taping it.
Yeah, always.
No, in this particular case, Brian has it coming. It's absolutely deserved. That needs to be in the montage of everything that happens with this station. All right, the Rams. 30-22 win in SoFi over the Saints. Do we know now their exact odds or the projected
odds? It was 60 of making the playoffs.
Yeah,
was
making
67%. They talked about it on the broadcast yesterday.
67%.
Could be higher. I'll change. I'll look it up.
To make the playoffs. It was not that long ago. They're now sitting on 8-7. It is not that long ago that they were at 3-6, and the Caleb Williams talk, let's just say, was hot for this team. They have since won 5 of 6. They look like a legitimate playoff team. And I don't mean just like the idea that they are currently paced to get into the playoffs. They look like a team that you will not want to play in the playoffs. Like, I'm not saying they're Super Bowl favorites. I'm not saying they're better than the Niners. I'm not sure anyone is better than the Niners, Jorge. But the Rams look like a team that nobody is going to be excited to play in the playoffs should they end up closing this thing out and getting there.
Well, they're doing a lot of things right now. Their offense is very, very dynamic, right? Because now you have a great quarterback in Matthew Stafford. Kyren Williams is playing some of the best tailback that they've had in years, and now with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Demarcus Robinson coming out of nowhere, now you have 3 legitimate guys that can catch long passes, short passes. They're all over the place, and Tyler Higbee, a very nice safety valve. So they have a very dynamic offense.
We were talking about this I think, Greg, you were with us, you, me, and DeMarco.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you think about MVP for the Rams, it's likely going to be either Stafford or Donald. Like, in the way people define this stuff traditionally, control you have over either the offense, the defense, what you force other teams to do, etc. But in a lot of ways, I think the MVP of this team has been Kyren Williams, just in the sense that they were like a team pre-Kyren Williams and a team post-Kyren Williams. And the minute Kyren Williams emerged as one of the focal points of this offense, it's just seemed like the team has changed. Like, they are a completely different, more dangerous team now because of him.
What was the thing that differentiated the Rams offense in the sort of first incarnation of them being really good?
Todd Gurley.
Correct. You need to be able to run the ball. Look what Mike McDaniel's doing in Miami with that kind of offense, all the stuff that they're doing in San Francisco. All these guys from the same basic tree. And, in Cincinnati, it's the same. Like, the common denominator is they have quality running backs and a running game that is either really good or like off the charts, with Mostert and Achane and, Christian McCaffrey and all. Like, you have these guys who are the cheat codes that can unlock it and allow really creative offensive coaches to have a full arsenal in front of them.
And a lot of this has to do with the offensive line, how well the offensive line has played this year. And a lot of it is because of rookies. And that's something we were talking about, Andy, the other day, that the rookies have been so good. But really, it starts with like Steve Avila, how he has been on that offensive line on the left side has been tremendous and helped these kinds of things happen. You're giving Matthew Stafford time so he can make these passes to Cooper Kupp deep, to hit Demarcus Robinson on the side, to find Puka Nacua in the middle. That's all things that matter because of the offensive line.
There was a great stat they showed during the game yesterday about the Rams. This year, for their rookies, they've had a combined 45 starts and 4,853 snaps for rookies selected after the first round in this year's draft. Both are the most in the NFL this year. That includes, we were talking about Avila. That includes Nacua. Like, they're drafting this year later in the draft. Everyone always focuses on the first round, often like number 1 overall pick, often becomes the focus really on quarterbacks. But what the Rams have done after the deal that they made for Stafford, where they lost a lot of their first round leverage, and they have been so good at finding these guys in the 3rd round, in the 5th round, later than that. And it's funny, heading into this season, everybody, I think the 4 of us are included in this, thought when the Rams were talking about the confidence that they had in this team and that this wasn't a tanking year, that they were lying. That they were lying. And you can't just say we're going to tank because we want people to actually pay to come to SoFi to watch us. But you can't just say we're going to tank. But and nobody was even necessarily upset about it. It's like, look, the bill came due. They've got to reset their books. This is the thing that happens for teams that go all in. And as it turns out, especially too, this image was created by them not adding anything financial to this team and not really investing in it. As it turns out, I think they were being honest with us the whole time. Like the idea of, look, do we think we're elite? No. And that's why we're not going to just keep investing in this team. At some point, you have to reset a little bit. But we don't think we're bad. And we think that if things break a little bit our way, and, they've had good health over the last 5 or 6 weeks, things like that, we don't think we're going to be a bad team. As it turns out, I think that they were transparent with us the whole time. We just don't ever expect teams to be transparent in this sort of situation.
And look, I mean, they know better because they know who's in the building and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if you have a quarterback, and that's what I mean, it was pretty clear in week 1. Like, okay, I don't know if they're going to be, playoff team, but they're going to be too good to lose 15 games and put themselves in. At the time, it was Caleb Williams, and now it's probably 2 or 3 other quarterbacks, or maybe it's still Caleb, whatever it is. It's like they're going to be too good for that. And then, you look back on it and the Pittsburgh game, the Cincinnati game, like there are all these games that they kind of kicked away. They've been blown out. They got blown out by Dallas. I think there was one other team that kind of kicked their butt. I forget, was it San Francisco the first time? I forget.
Yeah, in the second half they did, but it's really only Dallas really kicked their butt.
And so, like, if they don't, the Pittsburgh game was awful. The Cincinnati game was very winnable. And, like, they probably should be better than they actually are. Like, when Kyron Williams has been available, they've been very good. And what's so much fun about this
an opportunity to win the Ravens game.
Yeah. And what's so much fun about this is that they still have all the cap space this offseason. They still have the draft picks. They still have all the stuff. And like they did the reset. They accomplished that this year. And by the way, it was 73% after winning. Had they lost, it had gone down to 15. But now it's according to NFL.com. Like, you beat the Giants, you're probably in. It's remarkable and it's exciting and it's like homegrown fun for Rams fans.
It also too, it's for Rams fans, it is such reassurance about the leadership with Les Snead and Sean McVay. Like, in terms of the direction they want to take the team, but also their ability to identify talent and utilize talent so they can actually take the team in the direction that they want to go. And they can actually enact that vision that they have. Like, what they did this year, it's going to go down, I think, in terms of that partnership, one of the strongest years they've ever had, because in certain respects they've had to do more with less, or less obvious.
Right. And what's, they have now extended, they have bought, Puka Nacua will allow Cooper Kupp's usefulness as an NFL player to last another 2 or 3 years. If they had to lean on Kupp to be their unquestioned number one this year, next year, whatever, he would break. Because, Cooper Kupp's 30, isn't he? 30, 31?
I think he's 31.
He's significantly older than we kind of think about him as. And so, like, they couldn't...
He's 30.
Right, they couldn't lean on him anymore. And, but with Nacua, who is a Cooper Kupp clone in so many ways, like, they don't have to. And now they have 2 of those guys. And, Tutu Atwell has played well when he's been healthy. Like, this is the first time, I think, too, since they moved, where you could look at it and say, like, this is a Los Angeles Rams team that the city of Los Angeles can get around, in the sense of guys that they've brought in, as opposed to sort of the mercenary approach, the Dodgers approach.
Yeah. And all right, coming up next, the potential first-round matchup that's, according to ESPN and the way they're calculating all this, is seeming increasingly possible You want to talk about storylines and the emotions and the feels. This has got all of it. So we'll get into that next. Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
Big news, Laker fans. John Ireland here. You can now stream every Lakers game on the ESPN LA app. Don't miss a second of the action with Michael Thompson and I on the call. Plus, all your live and local Lakers talk every day in the palm of your hand.
You're one tap away from everything Lakers.
You could even win Lakers tickets.
Download the ESPN LA app and bam!
Download the ESPN LA app at the App Store and Google Play.
Can I get a photo of you holding that up?
Thanks, Morales. All right, so today, if you want, the bowl game that's on today is Georgia Tech versus UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl. You can watch it on ESPN at 3:30 if you are interested in that. I believe, Brian, your wife, no, you should watch it if you're at home.
She's a UCF grad.
Yeah, she's a UCF grad. Is she going to be watching?
Yeah.
Are you going to be watching with her? Do you know what Gasparilla is?
No, but they're apparently a pirate people.
Well,
like they have a whole pirate festival.
Well, it's in Tampa, Florida. So again, Georgia Tech, UCF, in the Gasparilla Bowl at 3:30 on ESPN. And this College Football Corner and the all coverage of bowl season on 710 is powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change, home with a 15-minute drive-through oil change. Visit SoCal Oil Change for locations and to score game-winning coupons.
Gasparilla. Never heard of it.
I do have an answer, actually, to what is Gasparilla, but I don't think we need to stop for it.
Does it have to do with putting on a chair?
Not on its face. But it might.
Okay, I am taking that as a subtle way of saying move it along. So,
Rams after the tag out,
Rams.
Far be it from me to get us off topic, but yes, I would say move on.
All right, so the Rams last night, they beat the Saints in SoFi 30-22, increasingly now close to securing a playoff spot. Totally like what nobody saw heading into this year. Reading the recap from, I guess it's on ESPN, but it's the AP recap. With a second win in 5 days during a self-described remodeling season, Los Angeles also jumped past the Minnesota Vikings and moved into 6th in the NFC standings in its bid to secure a wild card playoff spot and an increasingly possible opening round showdown with the Detroit Lions, Stafford's team for 12 seasons. That Stafford going back to Detroit, the team he never could get to the playoffs with, to take them on against Jared Goff, the guy he was traded against, Goff facing the team that was so nakedly looking to move him the last few years. Sean McVay had so clearly lost.
I don't like you anymore.
Sean McVay had so openly lost any type of trust in Jared Goff at all. But Goff's team would be the favorite at home. That would be bonkers as an opening round matchup. I want that so badly.
So there's a thing that people like to say that the NFL is scripted. If the NFL is scripted, this is a very good job by the NFL to script this.
The writers are back, baby.
They are fully back. There's no other way to make that happen. First of all, you have to get Detroit into the playoffs, which that never happens. And you have to put them into a spot where they can see the Rams as a wild card. And the Rams have to go from 3-6 to possibly 10-7 to make that happen. I think it's just amazing.
I know what I would expect Stafford to do. He's going to play like Stafford. He's going to have a bunch of really good throws, a couple that you'd probably want back, or that you go, whoa, that was a little dicey, or whatever it is. What kind of game do you get out of Jared Goff
in that situation? At least. There's going to be one pick six in there.
Does he play like the rejuvenated, particularly at home Jared Goff who could go to a Pro Bowl, or does he Goff? Horrible sound that you would make when Goff would do Goffy things that you don't like.
I think that's kind of who he is. He's very much a game manager that's not usually going to
He's
lose
been better,
games.
though, than a game manager this season.
I mean, he makes some good throws, but he's got a lot around him.
I mean, that's the definition of being better than a game manager.
I don't know. I think there's a lot. Jahmyr Gibbs becoming actually a good running back has really helped. David
We
Montgomery's
just talked about how Kyron Williams has helped out the Rams become a better team, and it's helped Stafford.
Okay,
it has helped Stafford to have Kyron. Stafford is better than Goff. I'm not trying to argue that they're equals. Stafford's better, but Jared Goff has been good for the Lions, and in particular, he's been good in Detroit. Like home games, he's been very good this year.
I mean, I think it's about who the weapons that he has around him. He has good running backs, but his wide receivers can be. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a fantastic receiver.
He's a legit A1.
He's a legit A1. But then the other guys are just kind of okay.
Former revenge game for Craig Reynolds?
No, Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds.
Yeah. Josh Reynolds. And, I mean, that's really Jamison Williams. I think they like him a little bit. But really, there's not a huge amount of guys. They have a very, very good tight end in Sam Laporta.
Yes.
I think that's where they're going to get a lot of it. It's Laporta and St. Brown. But besides that, there's not a lot of big options.
But that's not an indictment of Goff.
No.
Is there a scenario where the Rams could get the NFC South champion? Like, that's a possibility, right? Because that would be phenomenal.
Well, they would go. It would if they're in the. It depends on
Do you
the
have to get all the
seeding
way
and
up
how
to,
everything.
Who
goes
gets that team? Because they're going to be the lowest ranked of the division winners. The NFC South.
Yes, they will be because they're 7-7.
Right,
Tampa
those
Bay
are three trash teams that are trying to win that division.
So 6 and 7 was it? It's really just Minnesota, and the wild cards are Minnesota and the Rams as of right now, right?
Taking a look.
And there's one and Dallas.
Oh, Dallas. No, it's actually Philly right now. So then it just
Philly,
goes.
okay.
So 1 and 2. So it'll be 3 plays 7, 4 plays 6. I don't know.
It's very. I don't remember how the NFL does it, but like that would can you imagine if they get that as the draw? Like you can lose to Detroit in Detroit. Like I agree with Andy, it's a good team. But if there's not any one of those teams out of the NFC South that I would not favor the Rams to beat.
And I just love the idea, though, of an opening round potentially with that type.
Would you
of
rather
story.
have the game like that or the game that they're more likely to win?
As somebody who likes the Rams, but I'm not like a Rams diehard. Like I'm not a fan of the Rams, even though I enjoy seeing them win. I enjoy seeing them play. It's good for business, all of that stuff. As somebody who is not emotionally invested in the Rams the way a lot of people listening to us right now are, I would rather have the juicier storyline because I think Rams-Lions is juicier in terms of all the different things that would draw you in than
Rams-Saints.
Rams. I mean,
right, but that's how bad that division is. The Saints essentially took themselves out of wild card contention, so the only way they can get into the playoffs now is to win the division.
Right. I mean, unless you're really excited at the prospect of, oh, hey, one-time Ram Baker Mayfield coming back to his old team. Like there's not
Baker
much,
Mayfield revenge game.
There's not much to latch onto other than the idea of the Rams have a significantly easier opening round. And if you just want to see them go all the way through.
If the Buccaneers win this weekend, or I'm sorry, if the Buccaneers lose this weekend and Atlanta wins this weekend, you have a 3-way tie at the top of that division at 7-8.
Like that is an argument, by the way, to get rid of divisions. Like, seriously, nobody from the NFC South has any business being in the playoffs at all. Like, seriously. Just, especially, I feel like divisions in sports increasingly don't matter anymore and people don't get caught up in them. Like, why are we actually making an effort to make sure the NFC South is represented in the playoffs? Like, they shouldn't be, and everybody would be fine if they're not.
I don't know. I mean, Falcons Nation. I think they'd be upset by that. I mean, at least this year, you're looking at the next best team that theoretically would be squeezed out of the playoffs is probably the Seahawks.
And they're not really all
They're
that
not
good.
that good.
No.
But there's no 9 or 10 win team that's not going to make it so that Atlanta can.
No, but I agree with you, Andy. I've always said that there's really no use for these divisions and then to who to play a second time in a season. I mean, find somebody else to play.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to use the divisions to literally organize the league by region and just, keep it a little bit easier to figure out who plays who, fine.
For travel purposes and stuff like that.
Like just, help you remember which team is located where. that's fine.
But then the top 7 teams, that's
right,
it.
Exactly. Like the idea that just essentially by virtue of geography, because Tampa is lucky enough to be located in Florida as opposed to California. And that's, by the way, the only time I've ever said anybody is more lucky to be located in Florida
particularly
than
Tampa.
California. Yes.
They have interesting people.
To say the very least. Like, the Buccaneers would be getting into the playoffs purely by luck of geography.
Well, you're talking about the NBA model because the NBA has gotten rid of that division winner qualifies as the number 3 or whatever. Like, they don't do that anymore. It's like just you got your 8 teams,
right?
Now 10, I guess.
But anyway, to your original question, Brian, like I feel like if you are a Rams diehard, like somebody who's really invested in the Rams, you obviously want them playing the Buccaneers in the first round. Like
Buccaneers or the Saints or the Falcons or whoever.
Yes, we've already seen proof that they are a much better team than the Saints. Greg, your Derek Carr predictions a couple days ago, pretty spot on.
Pretty spot on. Big game.
But I feel like if you're somebody who just if you love
that's a great word for Derek Carr.
Faltering. I mean, it's bad.
Big game. Faltering.
It's on his business cards.
It's going to be on his tombstone.
But that's what I was trying to say. Like, I've watched Derek Carr enough to know that when that game is on the line, it does not count. Like, for him, he does not. I mean, it counts. Excuse me, but he does not play well. It happens all the time.
His burial might be the first time he hits the target square in a big moment.
Oh God, he's just so bad. He is just bad.
It's a rough joke, but still funny.
He's, by all accounts, a pretty nice guy.
He's a wonderful person.
He gets very upset with people, though. He's very animated.
I will say.
He takes up for teammates, though, publicly.
He does.
Right, I hope it's many decades from now.
Okay, thanks for putting it that way.
Now that we're done
easing it.
Derek Carr, literally and figuratively.
I have set karma back in its place. We can carry on with the show.
But yeah, if you are somebody, though, that is really just into football and like just what brings about the most interesting matchups on all different levels, you want Rams Lions.
I want the Rams to win. I think I'm a bigger sort of Rams fan than you. I want to see them advance and be.
So do I.
I'd still rather them play Because like the second round, you're back to like, all right, it's like the Niners or the Cowboys. There's like, it's like it's gonna get serious again. So like give me the really interesting one, because they're probably not good enough to go to a Super Bowl winning entirely road games to get there. Like I haven't seen
Throw 'em a bone.
I am like, this is a pretty good team. I'm excited about the future of where they're going. I am not, they're going to run the table on the road in the NFC to get to the Super Bowl. Not quite there yet.
Speaking of on the road and important games, the Lakers have one coming up in Oklahoma City against the Thunder. Anthony Davis, Factor Cap is next. Coming up later on in the show, we'll talk about Anthony. I had such a good seg. That was a perfect tease. Like that, it was organic.
It's going well.
It
I ruined it.
Yeah.
With, formatics.
Yeah. No, but we should have just teased Andy's thing and then done something else.
Yeah. I mean, you stepped on the moment, Greg.
I did
perfect.
just a little bit.
Nobody's going to notice.
We're not going to get angry calls. I know, but
and then when you do your air check with Andy, you can go back and be like, you really screwed this up.
He doesn't do them with me anymore.
He doesn't?
He's
Too good for this?
Well, you're really busy, Greg.
I mean, a little bit.
You're quite busy.
You're on the air for 11 hours.
A producer also might have given me a rundown. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's true. I did not do that.
Emily would have.
Emily would. Yeah. Emily gives you very detailed rundowns.
She's very good at that.
I know.
I am no longer.
X gonna give it to you.
Fact.
Dr. Cap coming up next. Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
Big news, Laker fans. John Ireland here. You can now stream every Lakers game on the ESPN LA app. Don't miss a second of the action with Michael Thompson and I on the call. Plus, all your live and local Lakers talk every day in the palm of your hand.
You're one tap away from everything Lakers.
You could even win Lakers tickets.
Download the ESPN LA app and bam!
Download the ESPN LA app at the App Store and Google Play.
Can I get a photo of you holding that up?
Dad. Everything I've said is a cap, but I'm going to go back. First of all, it's not a cap. It's
No, it
just
is a cap.
Welcome to Factor Cap.
Hey, guys. Let's hope she does it right.
What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? What's happening, everybody? All right, so the number one thing on Amazon is a hilarious calendar, and it's on sale. So it's a calendar. It's an OnlyFans calendar. And when you flip through it, it is literally fans, like ceiling fans, fans on the side. So it's an OnlyFans. Factor Cap, you still own a physical calendar, Andy.
Fact.
Really?
Yes, it's one of those dry erase calendars that is on our refrigerator that we use to just write down what we're going to be doing.
I don't think that counts.
No, it does count. I'll tell you why. Because in the age of iPhones and synced calendars, my wife and I could do that to keep everybody updated in the house on what's going on, but we choose instead to do the dry erase calendar. So I think it does count.
I'm going to give that a half count because it erases every time. Like it would count if it was a paper calendar that you flipped every month.
Yes, I think that's. We'll give half. Half is the right way to put that.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, and it's Brian.
Cap, I do not. I don't have one anymore.
That's the extent of your reasoning. Okay, so
DVD player.
I do.
Or or a Betamax, or
did anybody ever have a Betamax?
The Beta people. The
Betamax
folks.
had a brief surge.
Yeah,
of like
they had their moment in the sun.
As long as the
kind of like Laserdiscs.
Zune.
Laserdiscs had their moment in the sun.
All right, so it's holiday season, and some people need to fly back home. And you're going to find out that Laura Romo actually wrote these for me, so thank you, Laura. But Laura took Emily to the airport this morning at 3 a.m. Factor Cap.
I don't need the rest of the question. Cap.
Is almost going to get dumped. Bleep no.
So I'm going to finish it anyway. Factor Cap, you would take a coworker to the airport at 3 a.m. for their flight, Brian.
Cap. I don't care if it's the CEO of the company and there's a raise waiting for me at the end of it. It's like, no, I'll call you an Uber. 3 a.m.? Go bleep yourself. Who even asks for that?
I have no idea how
Apparently
this all worked
Emily.
out.
Actually, I've answered my own question.
I would say it's Cap in part because all of my 11 different jobs, Brian's in the same place. None of them pay enough that I'm worried about the ramifications of saying no.
Right.
All of them, I need significant more stature and heft at these jobs before I start driving people around at 3 in the morning.
Who would you ask that you work with? Who at this station would you, with a straight face and an earnest expectation that they might say yes, ask to take you,
I guess
you
Laura,
to take the airport?
Laura's an option, I guess.
Apparently
she's an easy mark. But
so I think me personally, I would give Jorge $200 and he would do it.
No, you're not asking that. You're
that
paying
is different.
Okay, so no, I don't put anybody.
There's nobody
out.
I would feel comfortable doing that with.
Let's play act this. Greg, I got a flight tomorrow, but I need to be there at 4. Can you pick me up about 2:30 in the morning and take me to the airport?
Absolutely not.
See how this goes? And by the way, it's the right answer.
Any other day.
What, Jorge?
App. Yeah, it's too early. Plus, I have to be in traffic, then be here. No, I pass. Hard pass.
It is quite literally the middle of the night.
Okay, so
I'm not taking you at 2:30 in the afternoon, let alone 2:30 in the morning.
See, that was going to be my next question. Let's just take 3 o'clock in the morning out of it. Is there any time in the day that you would ask a coworker to take you to the airport?
Look, if we're here, and then we wrap the show at, say, 1 o'clock, 1:15. You have to be there by 3. I'm already here. Let's go. That's the only way.
During the day, maybe it becomes more on the table. The big question I have is, honestly, why do you need me to take you to the airport?
You don't got a car? You can't get an
Everybody
Uber?
here is an adult. What's the reason?
My car broke down and I'd have no money. How about that?
Okay, if your car broke down, you have no money. Yes, I will do you a solid.
Your management, I'd say Uber. A board op needs a ride. I know how much.
Jorge,
they get
you're
paid.
out.
All the kids in the back, kids in the back with the social media. I will take them to the airport.
Those guys work for veggie straws. They're
look at them, they're all cheering right now. They're like, yes, rise.
I can't afford a flight, but at least I get to go to the airport.
All right, so
what about rides to a bar? Do I get a ride to a bar?
Yeah, I'll take you to a bar. We can go after the show if you want. Staying.
All right, I'll take you up for it.
All right, fine. Actually, I got to after
any other day, right?
After Mason in Ireland, I'm happy to go. Staying in the spirit of the holidays, you will be receiving gifts you may not love. Factor Cap, you re-gift things you don't like, Jorge.
Cap, I don't. I keep it. And who knows? It depends on what it is. Later on, you find a use for it. But I don't re-gift stuff like that. No.
Andy.
I haven't done it, but I'm not above doing it. I just haven't really received a lot of gifts that over the years that I don't want or that I have no use for whatsoever. But I wouldn't have a problem doing it because I feel like ultimately the person that got me something wants me to enjoy whatever gift they gave me. I know if I gave someone something, unless it was like really, really sentimental and I thought I just nailed this thing and I was completely off and like that would hurt. Beyond that, I'm like, look, if this isn't what you need, I would rather have spent the money getting you something you want as opposed to you having that thing just sit around because you're worried about hurting my feelings.
So you're into the gratification of watching the gift that you gave someone go to someone else?
Sure.
Okay. Cap, I like to keep those gifts around so every once in a while I can take them out and point out to the person who gave it to me how much I hate it.
You would do something like that.
This is a terrible gift. Please do better next year.
And
Here's
then they
pudding.
get you absolutely nothing.
Right.
Some pudding, yes. You would. All right, let's move on. Congratulations to Joe Coy. Well, I don't know who this is, but Joe Coy, who was announced as the host of the 2024 Golden Globe Awards.
He's a comedian.
Okay. I still don't know who it is. Factor Cap, you still watch award shows, Andy?
I'll watch the Oscars just because I think of the Academy Awards as much as like film history. And I'm just really into that. Like I'm just very, very into movie culture. So I'm interested in who wins these awards because I think it just sort of becomes a marker of movie history. But the actual pageantry of it, stuff like that, like I can tell you right now, I won't be watching the Golden Globes. I don't care. There are also so many award shows now that after a while, you know who's going to win everything. So there's no real suspense.
Fact, but only in the sense that my good friends of ours have an Oscar party every year. So I try to go to that. But if I'm just watching if there's no party, no Oscar party, I haven't watched an award show in years. So I don't know what the right answer there is. Y'all can figure that out.
So Cap, I guess.
I guess, unless there's a party that I want to go to.
So then fact.
But
at that point,
50% for you.
But that's really about the party. It's not about the award.
I was going to say at the party, because this is the same Oscar party I often go to. You can attend that thing without watching a minute of the Oscars.
Right, and there's a pool, so it's like gambling too.
See, that's fun though. That's like squares. Right. But if it's an Oscar party, don't most people know what's going to win? Like Andy was saying.
Yeah, they're industry people.
So they kind of all get
where
it right.
you end up winning the pool is stuff like animated short.
Yeah.
Or like makeup. Like you hit some of the more, I don't want to besmirch the good work these people have done. They're very talented. But what are considered some of the lesser...
the stupid categories.
They're the ones that get paid attention to less. I mean, if we're being honest about it.
I don't want to
ones that go across the
good work that they
wardrobe.
Do. Right. But the unimportant category.
I mean, look, all the people that do their Oscar pool for like best documentary short, they've not only never seen these documentary shorts, they've never heard of any of them, and they're just usually picking what title sounds most serious. Like, whatever sounds most serious and most hefty, that's what I'm picking.
Which article did you read where they stood up at Cannes and said and clapped for 12 minutes?
Exactly. That's how you're picking this.
Is there a Factor Cap? Is there anything you would give a 12-minute standing ovation to?
No.
I agree.
It's all part of like the pageantry, I guess.
That's
You're supposed to do it.
becoming a thing like these film festivals.
It's like 20 minutes now.
Yeah, and they all get them. They all get, like, if you attend one of these film festivals, you are spending more time standing up and applauding than you are actually watching movies.
So, but like, I mean, you can clap for a little bit, but after a little while, I don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah, but then you don't want to be the first one to sit down.
No, you can't. And you can't stop clapping it, the first one to stop.
What's so funny is you'll occasionally see these actors who, if nothing else, feel the need to pretend that they're uncomfortable with it, or they actually are. But then you always look over at someone like Tarantino, and he'll be like, come on, baby, more. I love this.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Hey, what about you, Jorge? Are you a fact?
I haven't watched one of those award shows in a long time since I think Guillermo del Toro won for The Shape of Water. I don't think I've watched any of these in a long time.
What a horrible movie. Like, I get Guillermo
best
del Toro.
director, who cares, man? A win is a win.
Oh, that movie was
He's representing
horrifically bad. There was not 1 second of that movie that I thought
It wasn't that
this is good.
bad.
Oh no, it was awful. Awful. All the way through.
I didn't think it was
beginning
bad.
to end.
Nah, it was good. I
Terrible.
think it was good.
It's a good movie.
Terrible
Yeah.
movie.
Pinocchio was awesome. You know?
Greg just doesn't think people and fish should fall in love.
I mean, I don't think I'm alone.
It's unnatural.
Yeah, but the way it all worked out to was very, very strange. I did not enjoy that movie.
I mean, the
That's a
premise is
movie.
you got to buy in.
Yeah, but I didn't enjoy it. And it's cap for me too. I would not. I don't watch.
You
any
once
of
got
these.
dumped by a fish, didn't you?
I did. It was very sad.
Hit a
Those
little-
beta fish
hit a little close to home.
They say that they're going to live for a long time. They don't.
She promised me in her bowl she'd be around forever.
It scarred me as a child. Okay, can we move on?
That,
All right,
that morning
thanks.
when you
I
woke up and
appreciate
saw
it.
her floating, you've never been the
They
same.
say they're solitary and you
Thought she
can't
was
put them
sleeping.
together with another fish, but she was cheating on me.
All right, that's it for Fact or Cap.
Fact.
All right, coming up. Can I do it now?
Yes.
The Lakers, they're on the road. Very important win, or very important game coming up in Oklahoma City against the Thunder. According to Anthony Davis, it is must win. Talk about that and last night's loss to the Timberwolves coming up next. Travis and Sliwa Show, 710 ESPN.
Big news, Laker fans. John Ireland here. You can now stream every Lakers game on the ESPN LA app. Don't miss a second of the action with Michael Thompson and I on the call. Plus, all your live and local Lakers talk every day in the palm of your hand.
You're one tap away from everything Lakers.
You could even win Lakers tickets.
Download the ESPN LA app and bam!
Download the ESPN LA app at the App Store and Google Play.
I love you, Otani. Now's a good time. Yeah. Can I get a photo of you holding that up?
The holiday cheer is in the air. And what else is that you feel? That's the power of the Cam Bros. Andy and Brian sit in for Travis and Sliwa today.
So basically, you're getting twice the base.
Christmas Friday continues on 710.
Where does this come in the pantheon of Christmas songs?
All I know is it's been stuck in my head for the last 3 days.
It is sticky as hell.
It is.
Ever since you gave that fish your heart.
Yes, actually, you want to know what the real reason is? I'll tell you what it is. I watched a Christmas movie the other day called Last Christmas. It was on Amazon. It's with Emilia Clarke. It's not good by any means, but I just was watching Christmas movies, and this was one of them, and they played this song at least 7 times in the movie.
Was there a sing-along? Because that is a sign the movie's probably not very good.
No sing-along.
Okay, well, that's good.
With the lyrics and a little bouncy ball on it.
My wife and daughter both love this song. Like, they will occasionally play it during non-holiday season, but during holiday season, this one is on full-time 24/7, and to your point, Greg, it really does stay with you.
Well, it gets to the question about regifting, doesn't it? The very next day, I gave you my heart, and the very next day, you gave it away.
To somebody else.
You
Yeah,
regifted.
sure.
You
Well, but not their
regifted my heart.
You didn't take their heart and give it to somebody else. You took your own heart and gave it to somebody else.
I gave you my heart, and the very next day, you gave it away. You gave my heart. You gave it away. Regifted
Back to
it.
you, but your heart went to somebody else.
I don't know. Someone special.
We can get into semantics all you want. We can do this.
The point is,
hey, you made the point. I agree with it.
I did not expect such a strong reaction to Shape of Water.
It won awards. It shouldn't have won awards.
Won Best Picture, I believe.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. How did that happen?
Guillermo del Toro, legend.
Exactly.
Sure, he's great.
Raza.
The movie, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So the Lakers last night, there's no clean way to spin out of this.
Who cares?
Lakers last night in Minnesota. No LeBron, second end of a back-to-back. No Gabe Vincent, which feels in part maintenance him coming back from the 24 games that he missed. I thought there was a chance that Anthony Davis wouldn't play, that the Lakers would just treat this like a scheduled loss and give AD an extra game, a night off to just deal with that ankle, deal with the groin. He ends up playing, and I got to say, I'm glad that he did, because even though the Lakers lost 118-111, even though they're now just one game above 500, they've been very bad since the IST, and there is no such thing as a moral victory in big boy sports. I feel like there was a lot that happened in last night's game in terms of the way they approached it, their focus, their energy, the defensive intensity, that doesn't fix everything, but I feel like if what we saw last night against the Wolves starts becoming the baseline the way it was just a few weeks ago, some, not all, but some of the issues that have been hurting the Lakers are going to work themselves out.
Yeah, look, they're not as bad as they're playing now, and they probably aren't as good as they were in like their best moments in the IST. It's like they've got to find some sort of happy medium. Like they were winning games before, not in like really spectacular fashion, but you could see it. Like there was much more of a progression of like the defense is coming around. Oh, we're starting to shoot a little bit. And like it's not perfect, it's not good enough, but like between now and game 80, you can get where you want to go. Last night looked like part of that progression from 3 weeks ago to me, where the defensive intensity is up, the assertiveness of D'Angelo Russell, if not the effectiveness until the fourth quarter, at least, but like the aggressiveness was there and stuff like that. And you could see it kind of building in a positive way where you looked at most of that game and said, all right, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the defense that I thought they really leaned into yesterday, and it looked as disruptive as it's been, probably since the IST, it is in some respects much easier for them to do that without LeBron, because LeBron has to, at this stage of his career, he's going to be 39, and I think in like a week, something like that. He can only do this for so long over the course of a game. He has to pick his spots. He can crank it up in ways that can be super effective. And I think when games really matter the most or moments matter the most, he can do that. But as a 48-minute plan for a team, like an ethos, LeBron can't be as much of a part of that as pretty much anybody else in the rotation. Some guys are better than others. Like D'Angelo Russell may try to have a defensive mindset, but there's a cap to how effective he's going to be. Reeves can do certain things when he puts his mind to it, but Reeves is one of the weaker defensive players on this team.
Good team, pretty good team defender, bad. Less effective as an isolation individual.
Right,
defender.
but he's capable, though, of at least trying to crank up his defensive intensity. Same with D'Lo. He is capable of trying to play as high-level defense as he can for an entire game. And my hope is that, Saturday, when LeBron is presumably back, Gabe Vincent is presumably back, Anthony Davis talked about this game against OKC as must win, like the mentality that they need to take on to get themselves out of this slump. My hope is that they can take what they did yesterday in the Timberwolves, even in a loss, and use that to build on moving forward and sort of just rediscover themselves.
Mm-hmm. The other thing about not having LeBron also reinforces, I think, mentally, like if we're going to win, if we have any chance of winning this game, it has to be on the defensive end because our offensive catalyst isn't there. So I think that helps too, and having enough of those games can help regenerate that attitude so that when LeBron is playing, everybody else is still picking it up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I looked over, I heard Jorge, and he's not at the chair. It's hard for them because like right now, nothing that they're doing kind of fits in exactly the same way. It's hard to sneak Rui in for the kind of minutes that I think a lot of people will want to play because defensively, if you're lining him up next to LeBron and AD, then is he defending small forwards in ways that are that he's not so good at, and chasing off screens that he can't do as well and stuff like that. And well, then do you take Taurean Prince off the floor, and he's one of their only guys that has shot the ball even kind of reliably over the last 20 games. And what about Cam Reddish? It's like they've got a bunch of players, and you were tweeting earlier about like, can you get Christian Wood on the floor and why that's not happening? They've got a bunch of guys who you could, in theory, Andy, kind of readjust what you're doing to make to take more advantage of Christian Wood or take more advantage of Rui Hachimura. But do you want to start adjusting your whole game plan of what you're doing on the floor so that Christian Wood can thrive? Like, I don't know if that's worth the trouble.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion to be had about the way Darvin uses certain players. Does he use them enough? Does he use them too much? What's the rationale for how he uses anybody? I know it caught a lot of people's attention after the Wolves loss when Darvin said that ideally he sees Austin Reeves playing 27, 28 minutes a game.
29. I think it's 27 to 29.
Right.
28, right in the sweet spot.
I really wish that I happened to not hear the question that set that up, because I would really want to know the context of it, because on its face, that feels way too low.
Right. One interpretation of it that I saw was that when he comes off, this is a function of him coming off the bench. Like if you want to get him with the substitution pattern that they have, if you want to get him on the floor for 35, 36 minutes a game and avoid having him have too many minutes this year with Russell, because that hasn't worked well this year, he ends up playing like 11 minutes in a row, which is too much. Like that's hard. You guys get tired after that, particularly the way that Reeves plays. One solution to that would be play Russell less. But
maybe with Gabe, maybe when Gabe Vincent's actually able to be used on a game in, game out basis, that becomes an option.
Or when LeBron is around, obviously that's a little easier because you have a second. Like Gabe Vincent's a point guard because he's short, not because he's, Chris Paul.
No, but he is a ball handler.
He is a ball handler, but he's not. He's a different.
He's not a floor general.
He's not a floor general. It's a different kind of ball handling than Russell. And so on a night, particularly on a night when LeBron isn't there, like Russell, kind of does need to get a little bit more.
But it is unusual that on a night with no LeBron, no Gabe Vincent, that would be a night where you see Austin Reeves play the least amount of minutes as he's
right. It was weird. I'm not, again, maybe you play Russell less, but that leaves Reeves as your only sort of primary ball.
Honestly, Reeves was outplaying Russell.
He was, I think, in some ways, and then in other ways, struggling. Like Reeves overall particularly against like really good pressure defenses. Minnesota arguably was the best defense in the league. It's, you know, especially since he's kind of a scorer slash floor. Like when he's on the floor, particularly like a game like last night with when AD isn't, he's also your source of points. So is he sort of scoring? Is he distributing? What's going on here? And he has overall, I think, struggled a little bit against like hard ball
particularly
pressure.
If he's the lone ball handler.
Correct. And so if you only have one of those guys on the floor, D'Lo's better at that than Russell. So, you know, Reeves is outplaying Russell, but Russell's impact on the rest of the guys might be. My only point of this is not even really to defend Darvin, because there are plenty of times when you and I would do the podcast every night, and it's like
5 days a week, anywhere you get your podcast, Locked on Lakers,
including YouTube.
Yeah, there's a YouTube component.
I got a lot of. I always like. I don't know what was Darvin. We almost nightly have I didn't quite understand that from Darvin portion of the show. But my only point is these questions are generally speaking much more difficult. And for every, well, why doesn't he just do this? I can point to 5 other reasons. Well, what about this, this, and this, and this? It happens if you do the thing that you're talking about. And I think most of the time fans, because we all just want the same thing, which is Lakers, please play better and win. We don't think 2, 3, 4, 5 moves down the line of what move A would do to the rest of the lineup and rotation.
All right. Anthony Davis did say that tomorrow night in Oklahoma City, they need to treat it like a must-win game. What does he mean by that? And who needs to show up? Who is most important in making sure this game tomorrow, given the way the Lakers have been playing, who's most important to make sure this must-win actually happens? Talk about that coming up next. Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
Big news, Laker fans. John Ireland here. You can now stream every Lakers game on the ESPN LA app. Don't miss a second of the action with Michael Thompson and I on the call. Plus, all your live and local Lakers talk every day in the palm of your hand.
You're one tap away from everything Lakers.
You could even win Lakers tickets.
Download the ESPN LA app and bam!
Download the ESPN LA app at the App Store and Google Play.
Now's a good time. Yup. Yeah. Can I get a photo of you holding that up?
Christmas Friday continues on 710.
Mamacita, ¿dónde está Santa Claus? ¿Dónde está Santa Claus? And the toys that he will leave.
Brian's trying to jump around move again in his chair. Don't ask the Santa Claus. This, by the way,
different vibe.
Is a Christmas song that can't get overplayed.
No.
Never get sick of this one. It is phenomenal.
What's his name? Augie something? Augie. I forget his name.
Is he still with us?
I hope so. ¿Dónde está Augie?
And you were busy earlier, literally and figuratively killing off Derek Carr.
He deserved it. So what he did to Raiders fans.
What he did to Bergman.
Right. How sad Greg is. He still hasn't recovered.
Bergman a couple days ago was giving Derek Carr absolutely no credit or any type of leeway for, as he put it, playing with a broken back. That was an excuse.
Okay, see, you're misrepresenting.
No, we are accurately representing.
I
what
said
you said.
I had his back, or I guess I had his back. I had his back all forever until like the last year or two. Even when he had a broken back, I was still protecting him. Now, and I said
I would love a playback on this one. I don't remember.
That was the whole point. But it was that when we had broken back was an excuse. It was a good excuse. Your back was broken. It took you
a while to come around to the idea that a broken back was a good excuse.
No, I was fully on board with that one. I brought it up because I knew I'm not going to do it again.
I mean, does a broken back cross from excuse to just a legitimate explanation?
Yeah,
like
it's an
maybe?
Explanation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't use the right words, and Andy is killing me for it.
Well, it's just the first time I've ever heard somebody question seemingly whether or not a broken back is a good excuse
for a professional football player.
Yes. Yes.
Was it only broken in one place?
But now, no, his back was broken. He was a disaster. Like, it sucked. Now, he's just a bad quarterback.
But with a great back.
I'm sure his back's okay.
Healthy back.
Once you hurt your back once, it's never the same.
That's true.
According to Abraham Solis, Augie passed away in 2017.
Oh, man.
That's too bad.
El fellow well met. All right, so we were talking about games and athletes with no excuses. According to Anthony Davis, the Lakers have no excuses tomorrow night in Oklahoma City against the Thunder. He said they need to treat this as a must-win game. If John Ireland were here, he would immediately pounce on that statement, saying, of course it's not a must-win game. There's 52 games left. If they lose this game, is the season over? We can all agree that's not what Anthony Davis meant.
Yeah.
What do you think he meant, though, the idea of it being treated like a must-win game? This would be game 30.
I think he's talking about vibes and like attitude and buy-in and investment, right? Like he's not talking about result, I don't think. And so like the Lakers need, because it's like they turn around, they're 15-14 now. They've got Oklahoma City tomorrow. They've got Boston on Christmas. And then, like, the schedule just keeps getting more and more ridiculous. Like, you throw out a game against Charlotte, and it's basically playoff teams or Memphis with Ja back. And, like, it is a recognition that the Western Conference is not going to play ball this year. And if you fall 2 or 3 games below 500, the idea that you could be a top 4 team is not realistic. Like, you've got to stay up with them. And I think like he's challenging the team to show up and show out, so to speak, in this game. And we'll see what the result is, but treat it like a must win. He didn't say like it's game 7, the season's over. Like he didn't say it is a must win. He said we have to treat it like a must win.
I think he's talking about a sense of desperation and urgency. Like you don't want this bleeding to continue any longer. And like you said, the schedule for the Lakers does them no favors. They've been really road heavy. For people that calculate and track rest as a metric, the Lakers have a very unfriendly rest schedule. Like they don't get a lot of opportunities off. You had all the energy that they expended in the IST, both in the way they played, but also literally one extra game. Like, they're in a position right now where it could be very easy to start feeling overwhelmed and just like, okay, this is starting to spin in a direction that isn't just bad, but also feels like it's out of our control, because all of a sudden we've gone from playing really well to playing pretty badly. They need to regain control of themselves as a team, which, for what it's worth, I thought they made steps towards that last night in Minnesota, even while losing.
And so much of this to me is about little things. Like the one thing it is not about is Anthony Davis. Like, Lakers fans, I know, get really frustrated with Davis, and sometimes we do when you cover it. Like, there are games where, like, the floor is just like, oh, how did that happen? Like, it's too low. But AD has been rock solid or better all season long. He is doing what he's supposed to do. Austin Reeves has kind of turned it around. Like, Darvin needs to be better. D'Angelo Russell needs to be better. Like, as a group, there are certain things that, how they play on the coaching staff and all that kind of stuff. But, like, to some degree, it's like guys need to perform, need to elevate their performance a little bit and get back to playing better.
I think D'Angelo Russell is really the guy. If you want to drill down, it's not one player who is the reason that they are losing games right now. But if you want to look at one player who picking up his game, I think would make the most tangible difference in them getting back on track, it's D'Lo.
What's the biggest difference between the Lakers' performance as a team, like individual performances between November and December?
D'Angelo Russell.
D'Angelo Russell.
In the same way, in the beginning, when they were struggling, the biggest difference was Austin Reeves. Like, you obviously couldn't put it all on Austin Reeves, that 3-5 start, but a big part of it was Austin Reeves was not playing close to the level that was expected when he's being treated as like potential all-star big three member in the group photo on media day. D'Angelo Russell, over the last few weeks, he's probably been the biggest difference in terms of how this team looks when they're at their best. Certainly offensively, if nothing else, offensively.
What happens is, and like, this is the one thing that I guess is beneficial to seeing guys injured, or in the case of Russell, play so poorly that they might as well be, is that you learn about value from absence. Like, when Vanderbilt wasn't there, it's like, before the season started, it's like, where is he going to play? Like, what exactly is the role for Jared Vanderbilt on this team? And then he's gone for a month or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, okay, I see why we need him so much. Like, maybe he's not a 30-minute a night guy, but those 17 to 24 minutes are really important.
Yeah.
And so, when AD doesn't play, it's like, it's pretty obvious what the issue is. You made the joke, our friend Harrison Fagan made the joke from SB Nation, like, the game that AD didn't play the other day, that is going to be
the game against San Antonio.
Right. That's going to be his highlight reel for Defensive Player of the Year candidacy. Yeah. Like, look what happens when I'm gone. Yeah. Like, it's a disaster. And so, like, you learn about the absences. Like, when LeBron isn't there, you see some of the shortcomings of Reeves as a primary ball handler. Like, little stuff like that.
Well, similar to the way the game that they won in San Antonio, but they blew an 18-point lead. Whoa. They ended up winning, but you could see, I think LeBron's absence was most pronounced when they were trying to close the thing out, and they were just struggling to put their foot down on the neck of a team that at that point had lost, I think, 16 or 17 games in a row. They were just having that inability to just close the thing out. Yep. Last night against the Wolves, and the Lakers got themselves back into it. They regained the lead at one point late in the game. Having LeBron out there to just organize things down the stretch, that's where I think his absence was most magnified, beyond the scoring, beyond all the different things LeBron does.
He's LeBron James, and you cannot replicate the ability for, okay, fine. You mentioned it earlier in the show, like, Is he a big defensive presence every game? No, he is not. In the same way that most stars aren't, in the same way that Kobe would have to measure what he was doing as he got a little bit older and all that kind of stuff. But in individual possessions,
LeBron James.
in 3 or 4 minute stretches. Like there's still really nobody better. There are guys who are as good. And like there's no like in terms of just controlling a game, making the right choices, orchestrating the right shot in any given moment. Like he's still as good as anybody in the NBA. And when you take that away and you put that on the shoulders of Austin Reeves or D'Angelo Russell, and Anthony Davis can't do those things himself. He doesn't have the ball in his hands. And so like, yeah, like they don't, the roster's shortcomings, they got to get everything working in the same synchronicity, and everything right now is out of sync.
I feel like we saw some of this last night against the Wolves, and this is something that actually you and I, not just trying to plug the podcast, but I will plug the podcast 5 days a week.
Don't be shy.
Locked On Lakers, everywhere you get your podcast. Also, YouTube component. I feel like they're going to have to start, as much as they need to clean up elements of the offense, and they need to come up with ways to score points easier and just make it less efforting. Ultimately, they have to be a defense-first team. And I think when you start thinking about the way Darvin employs certain lineups or the rotations or the minutes that he gives certain guys, I feel like he needs to actually start just leaning into the idea of what gives us more often than not the best defensive advantage, because I think their ceiling as a defensive team is higher than their ceiling as a scoring team.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard way to go through life.
It is a hard way to go through
trying
life.
to limit teams to 104 points a game.
I don't mean
104,
104, but I'm just saying the best defensive version of
themselves.
themselves.
Well, no, but the best defensive versions of yourself, you're going to have to limit your other team to 100 to 105, 110 because you can't score more than that.
Well, again, they need to find ways to be able to score 110, 120 on a regular basis. They're just never going to be a team that I think can put up 120 to 130.
Right.
And they shouldn't try.
What I'm wondering is, that part I agree with. Like, what's the sweet spot between the two of those things? Because
I'm not suggesting becoming the bad boy Pistons. Like,
no,
it's
but
not the same league.
If you deploy your best defensive lineup, my point is if you really lean as hard as you can into defense, deploy your best defensive lineup, you're not going to score very many points. I just, one of the things it's interesting, like, if you need Darvin to coach perfect games, perfect rotations and all that kind of stuff, it is an indictment of the roster. It's an indictment of the team because no coach coaches perfectly. No coach, maybe Eric Spoelstra, presses the buttons exactly as they should be pressed game in and game out. But most, 95% of the league's not doing that. Steve Kerr has won multiple championships. And if you look at Warriors Twitter, every night it's torches and pitchforks for Steve Kerr. So, I mean, like, nobody gets this right, especially when teams aren't performing to expectations.
No, it is a difficult gig unless you have just bulletproof rosters. All right, big news for the Dodgers last night. They're going to be bringing in Yoshinobu Yamamoto, like pitcher extraordinaire, dominator from Japan, 12 years, $375 million deal. This is on top of, got Shohei Ohtani and everybody else on this roster. Who's the face of the Dodgers moving forward? Talk about that coming up next, 710 ESPN.
Presented by our friends at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, home of the 15-minute drive-through oil change. Now sitting in for producer Emily, here is Corporate Greg.
Appreciate it, Morales. And so now for this last one, I'm just going to tell you what's going on tomorrow in college football, give you the games, the times, and all of that. So tomorrow in the Camellia Bowl, which you can also hear right here on ESPN 710, is Arkansas State and Northern Illinois. That starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. Also at 9 o'clock in the morning is the Birmingham Bowl with Troy versus Duke. The famous Idaho Potato Bowl at 12:30 with Georgia State taking on Utah State. Armed Forces Bowl with James Madison meeting Air Force at 12:30 as well. At 4 o'clock, you have South Alabama taking on Eastern Michigan at 68 Ventures Bowl. Utah Northwestern at 4:30 as well, and then the Las Vegas Bowl and the Hawaii Bowl at 7:30, where Coastal Carolina is taking on San Jose State. That's the College Football Corner, and all the coverage of bowl season on 710 is powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change, home of the 15-minute drive-through oil change. Visit SoCal Oil Change for locations and to score game-winning coupons.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
That was extremely informative. Thank you.
Very complete slate of what lies ahead in college football.
Interestingly enough, I believe it is the potatoes that are famous in that bowl as opposed to the bowl game itself.
Yes.
The famous Idaho Potato Bowl.
Famous Idaho
It's
Potato
the potatoes
Bowl.
that are famous.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, so the Dodgers last night, big news. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be joining the team. Just absolutely.
I'm so excited about this. I am actually probably more excited about this than I am Ohtani.
About Yamamoto?
Yes.
Okay, 12-year, hold on, let me just let everybody know the details. 12-year, $375 million deal. He has been absolutely dominant in Japan. Like, he's won the equivalent of their Cy Young 3 straight years, 3 straight MVPs. What was it? He had like 1 home run every
28 innings.
28 innings.
He's the opposite. He's the anti-Lance Lynn.
Yeah, he is the bizarro Lance Lynn. He has been, and he's only 25. He's only 25 years old. What is it about Yamamoto that you're even more excited about than Ohtani?
Because I've watched Shohei Ohtani. I know what this is. Like I'm don't get me wrong. I am excited about Ohtani. I'm excited about Ohtani between sitting in a lineup with Will Smith and Betts and Freeman and all these like whatever else that they put around. Like I'm really excited about this, but I've seen it before. Yamamoto, I haven't, and like there's something that's always kind of intriguing about the players that come from other leagues, the Japanese pitchers, because they do things a little differently. The motions, the styles, they're all a little bit different. The spin seems to be different. The arm angles. I've never seen the guy pitch, and I don't know what this is. I'm excited.
It's not apples to apples, but I think you'll understand what I mean. Just in terms of excitement brewing over a player that, if we're being honest, most of the people excited don't really know what he does.
Nope.
They have not seen it before. He's like the Dodgers' Wembanyama.
A little bit.
He is the Wemby for the Dodgers because NBA fans were really excited at what was coming ahead with Wembanyama. He's been the most hyped prospect since LeBron. But most of the people, including me, really excited about Wembanyama. I was not familiar at all with
you've got
what he did.
grainy footage from like semi-pro leagues in France. Right. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, like Yamamoto sounds incredibly exciting, but you're right. Like I have never seen him pitch. The guy could walk past me and I'd have no idea who he is.
And like so that to me is like they gave a 12-year contract to a guy. Like,
Dodgers never do that.
They don't do that for anybody. Like they paid $50 million to the team just to have the right to pay the other guy $325 million. It's like this thing's got to be pretty good, right? Like I want to know what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, he's everything that you're saying. We are hoping he's going to be. You bring him in for this amount of money, this amount of years. He has to be the number 1 starter within a couple of years.
I mean,
right now it's probably Tyler Glasnow, who's been around for a long time. He's a veteran. He's supposedly healthy. Walker
the
Buehler.
86 innings he's going to pitch next year.
Hey, let's not put it out there like that. Let's hope for a lot more. But Walker Buehler's coming back.
Really quickly though, like the idea that Glasnow is a veteran, like he would need to be the number 1 guy.
He probably has to be right now.
Does he? I mean, I'm really asking, why does he need to be? Because Yamamoto has played. I mean, I know he's never been in the majors before, but he has played professional baseball for a long time. He's been a star in Japan for a long time. So he doesn't seem like the idea that, or it doesn't seem on paper. I don't know anything about
Like,
it.
why wouldn't he be the number one
Right.
starter?
It doesn't seem like on paper this is the type of setup where you have to ease him in.
No, I don't think we were going to have to ease him in, but at the same time, to be the number one starter from day one out of camp, like it's probably going to go to somebody like Glasnow or possibly even Bobby Miller, who pitched great last year.
Okay. Well, okay. It's one thing if those guys are pitching better than Yamamoto, like, or just seem more comfortable, like whatever. That's one thing. But the idea that he hasn't done it before here, at least it sounds like what you're saying.
Well, no, I mean, he has not done it here. Like, I guess that's part of it. But you have veteran, proven guys that are probably going to get it over. If he outpitches everybody, great. Let's have it. I would love for him to be the number one.
That's what I mean. It sounded before like you were saying that, like, to some degree you have to give deference to Glasnow because he's in the majors longer. I don't care.
Right.
Like, who cares?
What the other thing I'm really interested in is, like, between Glasnow and certainly Yamamoto, like, what does this allow the Dodgers to do with the rest of the guys coming back? Like, Buehler is, I guess they tried to bring him back last year. It didn't quite work. And so, like, they can ease him in. Like, do they need you can
ease Dustin May.
You can, but is he going to be able to pitch this year?
Dustin May, I mean, he's probably on the same Kershaw track. Like, if he does come back at all, very, very late. Same with Tony Gonsolin. Both of them not going to probably be seen at all.
Bobby
but you
Miller,
can ease the timeline, though, of them coming back.
But you lighten the load on guys like Bobby Miller, on Sheehan, on guys like that. Like, any other prospects that they'd be bringing up to pitch here and there. Like, it should make all of those other guys better. Plus, Bobby Miller now is going to be every fifth day going up against somebody else's fourth or fifth starter.
Which we hopeful that would be better for him.
Right.
But, I mean, they have other guys. They have Michael Grove, but he's probably more of a bullpen piece at this point. So, I mean, it allows you to be more relaxed with not putting the pressure on Walker Buehler that you would normally be putting on, like, hey, we need you. That was the pressure that got put onto Kershaw last year, and it was too much, and it should not have been.
It felt like last year, I mean, I'm sure Buehler wanted to be back because he wanted to be back, but it felt like, at least from the outside looking in, there was some urgency, like, hey, we really need you to come back, and then ultimately it's determined he just wasn't ready.
Because there was that moment where the Dodgers, like, the bullpen, which was problematic for the first 80 games, like, was unhittable in the final stretch. But, like, you reach that portion where
they had like no starting pitching,
right?
Like,
it's like we really are going to have Lance Lynn pitch in the playoffs,
right? Like,
this is going to be a real thing.
Yeah, we need Walker Buehler to come back because we're out of dudes. Like, it should take a lot for the Dodgers to be out of dudes at this point.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother kind of topic of conversation. They didn't go get guys because they were saving money and they were trying not to spend much and basically giving away last year by not getting anybody at the deadline that actually mattered. Lance Lynn does not count.
It's
Ryan
a little
Yarbrough.
It's a
little
little
bit
bit
for the other guys.
It's a little bit similar to what happened with the Rams in that the Dodgers, I don't think anybody thought that they would miss the playoffs necessarily just because they're too good and they just seem to own that division, and that's just the laws of nature. But the Dodgers started seeming better situated to actually make a deep run than I think anybody had expected heading into the year. It's like
because it was a down year for a normal team. You win 92, like a normal team, like you win 92 games. They still won 100.
Yeah,
despite the fact that at times in the regular season they were trotting out lineups with anybody had ever heard of, like nobody who was supposed to be pitching for them or hitting for them or anything like that they had so many injuries, and yet they still won 100 games. Like, I thought they were going to win last year because everything was set up for them to be this sort of weird team of destiny, like the fluky, like it never works in the year it's supposed to, so it'll work in this one where everything's gone wrong.
Right. I mean, they went into the season, they were not supposed to win the division. The Padres were supposed to be the best team in the division. And then they weren't supposed to win 100 games. And then by the time they got to playoffs, they just didn't have pitching. Right. So it was the expectation is still always championship or bust, but last year kind of just
and by the way,
never
still
felt that way.
Still could have won.
Absolutely.
If Betts and Freeman didn't go like 2 for 63
like
or whatever it was.
21 or something crazy like that. Yeah, it was off. If they would have hit, you could have gotten past how bad the pitching was. But either way, the pitching was terrible and the hitting was terrible. It was just a mess all the way around.
Well, I mean, in theory, as much as we talked about before, there's going to be insane expectations and scrutiny of this team. They're going to be under a microscope 24/7 with everything getting overanalyzed to death. There's so much talent in that clubhouse. They should have the ability to lean on each other in trying to make that experience, which can be really unpleasant for the players, that much easier. Like, it should be easier to not feel like I have to be the guy to do everything.
Well,
when you look around that clubhouse,
and they have, I realize, the West teams keep trying to. Arizona had a great playoff run and all that kind of stuff, and it's just in terms of looking at the division. The Dodgers won the division last year by 16 games. They have a 16-game cushion over the Diamondbacks and the Padres, who have traded Juan Soto and are seem to be sort of trying to recalibrate that thing again and all that. So they've got some cushion to work with if they need to. Yamamoto needs 2 weeks because his innings are piling up or something. You can sit him down, fine. They should be able to orchestrate everything to be as prepared for the postseason as any team could possibly be.
Okay, so with that in mind, coming up next, I do want to address that question that I brought up before, because this team is so star-loaded, but it's an unusual assortment of stars. Who is the face of the Dodgers moving forward? Talk about that coming up next. Kamenetsky Brothers in for Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
We've welcomed the new partner here at 710 ESPN, NextGen. NextGen, the official AC, heat, and plumbing company of SoCal sports fans.
You're as cold as ice.
Call 833-3-NEXTGEN, NEXGEN, or visit nextgenairandplumbing.com. Time for our feature we do 3 days a week at 12:30 p.m. Who's hot? Who's cold? Thanks to NextGen. And yes, indeed, it is time for What's Hot. How about the Rams social media team? Sitting in for producer M today. Take it away, Quippy Quick.
Thanks, Morales. And yeah, the Rams social media team did a fantastic job yesterday where they got Ohtani in the locker room. They gave him a jersey, and they did a lot of things for Ohtani that was at the game. They also were very, very prepared and had a jersey for Yamamoto ready to go. So the Rams social media team, crazy hot.
You know what? L.A. football social media teams are on it because the Chargers do a great job as well.
Who's that?
I don't know the name.
No. Like the Chargers, that's San Diego.
Okay,
talking about the Rams social media team.
The problem with the Chargers social media team is it's the best thing about the team.
It was
Except
just
the
as
uniforms.
easy. I was going to go to that cap. I was going to go to that cap on the Chargers. But
I stopped you. That's on me. I interrupted you one too many times today, Andy. You were flowing on something. I stopped you every time.
By the way,
so I'm cold then.
If you're a team like in LA, like you've got to be like the newspapers with obituaries. Like you have to have a jersey for everybody who might stop by, ready to go. Like print those babies up. Like have them ready in case anybody show, like Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, whatever it might be. They show up in your locker room, you hand them a jersey. You're ready to go.
I believe last night, too, I saw on Twitter Stafford commenting about Ohtani. Said, quote, the big guy. That says something because you know who else is a really big guy?
Matthew Stafford.
But that is true. Like Ohtani is huge. He's an enormous person.
He's very, very large, and it's going to be great seeing him in Dodger blue. But great job by the Rams social media team. Yeah. Really on top of it.
They are.
Yep.
Way to bring it full circle, Greg.
All right, time for What's Cold.
And now time for What's Cold. How about Aquaman and DC?
Yeah, so Aquaman absolutely looks horrendous. And DC, I don't think they ever get anything correct anymore. There's only been one or two things that I actually like from DC recently. Peacemaker with John Cena on HBO, really, really good. But besides that, I have not seen one thing from DC in the last, 20 years that was good?
I saw The Flash earlier in the year, just on Max. I saw it on Max. I was not going to pay any extra than I already just pay for Max.
I'd rather take somebody to the airport at 3:30.
The Flash?
Sitting pudding.
I'd actually rather poop myself. Not just sit and
the airport in the morning. Yeah. The Flash was incomprehensibly bad.
Really?
It is like multiple car crashes all in the same movie. Like, I can't tell you how many times I watched that movie just going, what are they doing?
This is one of my pet peeves about superhero movies in general, is that for some reason, these like labyrinthian universes and plots and all these stuff, like you know what made Mad Max, like the most recent one, awesome? That is the simplest movie and plot to follow in the history of movies. Like, army of people goes from point A to point B, and then back to A. Awesome stuff in between. Like, that is a fun action movie. Why do superhero movies have to be so complicated?
Oh, they have some type of, like, time loop thing in the
They
Flash.
all have that.
The actor who plays the Flash is terrible. Like, he's really uncharismatic, unlikable, and on top of it, they like clone him in this movie or make like a time loop where it's like the younger and older version. So you have two unlikable presences with each other. It is unwatchably bad.
Yeah, DC is always one step behind or 5 steps behind Marvel, and even Marvel's getting to be too much. I'm a huge Marvel fan, and really it's just too confusing at this point. Nobody knows what's going on.
The first Ant-Man was really fun.
That was fun.
The second Ant-Man was like
with the Wasp. It was okay.
Quantum Mania,
Quantum Mania was the third one,
and
that
very, very overdone and confusing and way too long.
Right, yes, a lot of that is what's happening right now, and it's too much with all the multiverses. It gets too confusing for the average follower, and I'm actually really into it, and it's confusing for me.
Well, it also too, like, after a while, when you know that it's just setting up next part of the multiverse, the stories that you're actually watching feel like they don't matter, because you're like, this is really just setting up the next thing, and there's no actual stakes to what's happening right now. Like, nothing that's happening now actually matters, because I know it's really just about setting up this next thing or introducing some new character in the stinger. Like, what's actually happening in this 2.5 hour story kind of doesn't matter at all.
To your point, you watch these movies waiting for the post-credit scene to see what's going to be thrown in there, to see what's in the next movie. Right. Like, yeah, it's too much. And DC is just the worst at all of it, and Aquaman looks absolutely horrendous. The first one was bad.
I thought the trailers for this one were so bad. I thought it was like kind of like a promo, like weird commercial for like their McDonald's tie-in or something like that. I didn't realize that was the actual movie.
It was the real trailer, and that's by far what's cold.
It's probably still better than The Flash.
And by the way, Hot and Cold is brought to you by NextGen, the official AC, heat, and plumbing company of SoCal sports fans. Call 833-3NEXGEN or visit nextgenairandplumbing.com.
They're not about to put out something as bad as Aquaman 2.
No, they put out great stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that looks so atrocious.
Just to finish out the Dodgers rotation question, a friend of mine just texted me to remind us that next year is like the holding place, it's like
a gap year.
It's a gap year for the Dodgers rotation, because in 25 it's Buehler, theoretically May, Gonsolin, Miller, Yamamoto, Ohtani should be pitching again. Glasnow is still here. Like, surely there will be some other prospect that is able to. Like,
Sheehan would probably still be.
Sheehan, right? They've got a nine-man rotation.
I mean, honestly, you might end up making a guy like Dustin May, who just throws fire, your closer, because when is he actually? You might get more use out of him and more utility and like need as a closer, as opposed to one of 5 starters when you have that many starting options.
With this many dudes, like, you could like bring back Kershaw for like 8 starts a year until he's 53 years old.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm here.
We
for
need
that.
a lefty, by the way. Right now, there are no left-handed starting pitchers on the Dodgers.
But that's the other thing. It's like, I know Kershaw, if he comes back at all next year, it's late in the year and whatever. I would love the idea. He's such a good pitcher, of like giving him a year where he can actually kind of be part of a team, where you can bring him along slowly. He can still contribute. Pitched very well last year, and is a real pitcher now. Like, this affords them the opportunity to be like super gentle and careful and kind of like give Kershaw like an honorary year that maybe the arm doesn't deserve, or something. I don't know. I don't care. Like, you can do it now.
I mean, in some respects, I mean, obviously recovering from shoulder surgery sucks for him, but in terms of actually pacing himself where he can get the best version of Clayton Kershaw in the games that matter the most, it may be a blessing in disguise, because it's clear he can only do this sustained for so many months, so many games in a season. Like, because
he's got like 12 to 15 starts a year. So if those,
very most. Right. If he's got 12 to 15, they might as well come in August, in September, in the playoffs. And I will trust Kershaw. If he's only thrown 9 starts, I will trust him in a high leverage.
Well, Greg, wouldn't you say, like, if let's say you have Kershaw coming in healthy this year, you'd just be like, great, throw a little bit in spring training, and we will see you again in mid-July.
I don't know if he'll
next
do that.
year. No, he's
I'm just saying, like, let's just, like, hypothetically, like, I realize he can't pitch until August or September, or whatever it is, but like, the best way to use him now anyway 100%. Is just, okay, like, join us in July. We're cool.
I don't think
Schilling did it.
I don't think he would do that.
I don't think he would either,
unless he has no choice. That's in part why I'm saying there's a blessing in disguise. It's forcing him to do the thing that he should do, like, practically speaking.
Curse his professionalism.
Yes, he should very much only start pitching in, like, just keep himself ramped up, keep him ready, do your bullpen session, do the whole thing, but don't actually pitch in games until July.
Run around in the outfield like you like to do.
But he'd never do that. He would never do that.
Well, it's not his choice so much anymore.
That's my point.
Yeah, unless you want to go play for, I don't know, what's a bad team in baseball?
I mean, at
He
this
would go
point,
play for the Rangers.
At this point,
see, I don't think that's a thing. Why? The whole thing with the Rangers, I think, is a myth. Because first of all, they just won the World Series, but they have a ballpark that is conducive to giving up home runs.
He's from
I'm just
Dallas.
saying that's the only other place he would play. I think he's either going to pitch for the Dodgers or retire. I think that's what he's going to do.
100% agree.
I mean, at this point in Kershaw's career, like the idea of not being a lifer takes away a lot of the mystique of his career. I mean, he'd still be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's what are you doing going to pitch for the Rangers?
Right, exactly.
The Nationals.
Right. I mean, that would take away aesthetics that I think matter not just to fans, but I think matters to Kershaw. Like, he's smart enough to understand what it means to be that great of a lifer for the Dodgers. Like, that means something. I'm sure he knows that. So,
I hope so.
Yeah, it's good that he's going to be forced to do the thing that he really should be doing anyway. All right, coming up next, The Dump. Travis and Sliwa, 710 ESPN.
Today.
It's about giving people what they want.
That is what they want. President Joe Biden, big announcement today. He is issuing a federal pardon, is according to USA Today and Yahoo, a federal pardon to every American who has used marijuana in the past, including those who were never arrested or prosecuted. So
all right, I feel better.
Yeah, anybody, I think that's pretty much.
I didn't realize I needed a pardon, but thanks.
I have used marijuana in the past.
I'm using it right now.
Pardon. Steve Mason can sleep like a baby.
I mean, this just is the right thing to do, right? Overall, there's no reason that
I don't know if you need a pardon if you've never been arrested or prosecuted.
Well, but like they're saying you're not going to be, because it's not federally legal right now, right? So if for some reason you do get arrested for it, that's it. It's done. This just seems like the first step towards federally legal.
The sweeping pardon applies to all U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents in possession of marijuana for their personal use and those convicted of similar crimes. It also forgives pot users in the District of Columbia. It does not apply to individuals who've been jailed for selling the drug, which is illegal under federal law, or marijuana offenses such as driving under the influence of an illegal substance.
Like if you're driving around with 30, 40 pounds in your trunk, bricks and bricks and bricks.
Sorry, officer, I've been pardoned.
Right, I mean, I don't care how much you're smoking. Like, that's not for personal consumption.
I'm releasing myself of my own recognizance and my pardon, baby. You have yourself a nice day, officer.
If you're just like a guy who smoked a little bit, there's no reason to be putting people in jail for that. Breaking up families, making it so people can't get jobs, and this has real consequences.
Absolutely.
No, you don't need to be putting people in jail for that. Driving under the influence, yes.
Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah, that is an actual crime that can really hurt people directly. I just did not realize that I needed a pardon, that I required one.
I mean, there are probably some other things I've done that really would need a pardon more than that. Done things that are worse.
And it's also, too, this article includes a photo from 2022 of a demonstrator waving a marijuana flag in front of the White House. It looks like the American flag, except in the square is a marijuana leaf, and then along all the stripes are little marijuana leaves.
Went full force on that one.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, you know what? This protester, whoever
was it the postman? The United States no longer exists.
This protester, whoever he or she is, can rest easy now knowing that their work is done. They've also been pardoned.
When you started that thing, though, the thing also contains a photo of, I swear to God, I thought you were going to finish it with Joe Biden getting super high.
And with this bong rip, I pardon all of you.
I'm old. It's a little harder for me to sleep. It's medicinal.
Who wants edibles on the White House? I declare this edible day, and you are all pardoned.
Oh, that's coming.
Who wants to go to the commissary? They'll cook anything you want for you 24 hours a day around here.
I am high as bleep, and you are all pardoned. Every single one.
Is there a better place to get the munchies than the White House? The kitchen is always open.
Mr. President,
they'll cook whatever you want.
Mr. President, there's nobody here.
Yum.
The Raiders expected to release Jimmy G this offseason, according to Bill Barnwell from ESPN. Barring a stunning turn of events, the Raiders will release Garoppolo, who will end up making just over $35 million for 6 starts in a Raiders uniform, and $11.3 million of that figure is in a guaranteed bonus that comes next season. Vegas will have nearly $29 million in dead money for Garoppolo spread over the next 2 years on its cap.
Doesn't even include the dead money for Gruden. A lot of dead money.
Bergman, as the resident Raiders fan here, long-suffering, tortured Raiders fan, your thoughts on the Jimmy G era?
Good riddance. The day he was signed, it was like, what are we doing? Why are you signing Jimmy Garoppolo? There's no need for him on this team. And that was because it was the whole Patriots thing. I'm so happy he's gone. I'm so happy he's not playing. He's not going to be on this team anymore. It's just a nice way to get rid of anything that's Patriots related.
Who will you miss less, Jimmy G or Derek Carr?
Miss less? Oh, Jimmy G, I guess. No, it's the other way around. It's a weird question.
Because you have a real tangible distaste for both.
Yes, I do. I don't really care that much about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's insignificant in Raiders history. So he can just go away.
$29 million he's going to be making for the next couple of years ain't going to be insignificant.
So it's kind of confusing too, because his 2024 salary becomes fully guaranteed the 5th league day of 2024. So does that mean that it's not fully guaranteed until then? So if you get rid of him, you don't have to pay any of this. I don't know the answer to that.
According to overthecap.com, the Raiders would save only $199,000 if they were to release Garoppolo straight up this offseason. If they designate him as a post-June 1st cut, that would save $13 million on their 2024 cap space. That is probably the direction the Raiders will go to get some relief, though presumably not all, on the Jimmy G contract. So quite another era in the storied recent history
he's
of
done,
this franchise.
Right? But somebody might sign him as a backup.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody will, but they shouldn't.
Look,
it's time for him to go.
As a backup, though, he's a luxury as a backup.
He can't throw the ball deep. I mean, I guess if it's the right team, he did well with the 49ers because it was the right team. But yeah,
you need a guy who you can could we get through 4 games with Jimmy Garoppolo without going 0-4 if we're a good team?
Yeah, like if the Rams didn't have to deal with Brett Rippon and they used Jimmy G instead, they might have gotten through that game in Green Bay.
They absolutely would have been better off with Jimmy G than Brett Rippon. I mean, like, a backup quarterback matters. I mean, insofar as signs that the Rams went into the season maybe thinking they could be good, but they weren't sweating the idea of we got to be strongly in contention. They didn't bother at all with the backup spot.
No, they brought Carson Wentz in. We're like, oh, guys, we need a guy who can get us through a couple games if Stafford gets hurt because we're playing for something now.
Right, exactly. It is National Ashton and National Betty Days. Other than for Ashton Kutcher, who does that possibly affect?
Is there another Ashton you know of?
I'm looking it up right now. Famous people named Ashton. None of them are famous. Ashton Carter, the hockey player. Nope, sorry. Nope. He was Secretary of Defense. It's a much different job than a hockey player. I Googled famous people named Ashton, only 10 popped up.
Yeah, I mean, this is really his sole holiday for all intents and purposes. Like modern Ashtons, it's that dude and that's it. I had never even heard of the name Ashton until that 70s show broke him out.
The second, according to one of these ranking, this is playback.fm, the second most famous Ashton is Ash Carter, the aforementioned former Secretary of Defense, followed by somebody named Ashton Agar, who is a cricketer, by the look of this.
Not a clue who any of those people are.
No.
And it's honestly not right now.
It's a stupid day.
It is a real, I mean, this is proof that there's just too many national days. Yeah. Like if there's National Ashton Day, I don't even know what you do on that day.
The 8th most famous Ashton is Ashton C. Schallenberger, who was governor of Nebraska in the 1870s.
It is also Mathematics Day, which would have greatly stressed me out in high school. That is a holiday that would have just freaked me the bleep out. I was so bad at math in high school. I had a tutor, an outside tutor, twice a week to maintain my D. Like, I was that bad at math. I just could not understand anything that we were doing at all. Clinton joining us by remote, is that correct?
Yeah, it's going to be by remote. We're just trying to get him connected because his Comrex isn't working. So it is going to be Clinton and I, so I can join you for Super Crosstalk.
Let's do the little Super Crosstalk.
ESPN AM 710 Los Angeles. KRDC AM 1110 Pasadena, Los Angeles.
K256CX 99.1 FM Pasadena, Los Angeles.
It's the greatest segment in LA sports radio history.
Oh my God. When the shows come together for magic on the radio.
It will only grow stronger. Super Crosstalk.
Are we ready for Mason and Ireland to join Travis and Slee?
Super Crosstalk begins.
Super Crosstalk presented by In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out. That's what a hamburger is all about.
It's time for Super Crosstalk.
We've already talked a lot today, but we can continue to talk.
I feel like this isn't much different.
Well, Clinton will be joining us in a second. He's connected, but I don't think we can hear him just yet.
I was going to say, until the Clinton Yates portion of this begins, it is essentially just a continuation of what we've been doing.
Yeah.
I actually do want to get Clinton's take as, one of the baseball folks around here and a big Dodger guy. His take on who the face of the Dodgers is, like in this upcoming season. Because I just think it's a really interesting question when you're bringing in Ohtani, you're bringing in Yamamoto, like all these different faces. In the case of Ohtani, there's both the secrecy and the does not like to reveal much of anything about himself, whether personal life, personality, whatever. But there's the language barrier, which is fine, except from a marketing standpoint, it creates interesting challenges. I don't know Yamamoto, like if he requires a translator, prefers a translator, or anything like that. But like who the face of the organization is from a branding standpoint, and also like a leadership standpoint, or just who you
Different
think of.
questions.
Yeah, they are.
Right. The face of the organization is Shohei Ohtani. The voice of the organization is probably Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman.
Dave Roberts.
But like in terms of players. But like the voice is going to be somebody else.
But that's
the face is Ohtani.
But that's unusual. It's unusual to have it where your face and your voice not only are different people, but the odds of them ever being the same person are really low.
Right. And that isn't to say that like Ohtani won't take on a leadership role in the clubhouse and those kinds of things, but he just won't be, or he won't do interviews, or he won't do, but like I don't think he's going to be the forward-facing voice of
right. And again, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all. I think it's interesting because it's unusual in terms of the way teams market stars. And it's also unusual in the sense of clubhouse locker room dynamics and how they translate in front of media and in front of fans. Like it's very different. It's neither good nor bad. I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just the face is always the biggest star, but usually you just go back to basketball, go back to football. It's your quarterback. It's like like your stars tend to just be in a position where they're also going to be the voice because they have the most responsibility, they get the most attention, they're going to be asked the questions, even though, a lot of the leadership may come from different people. They make, the voices that matter the most in a locker room or in a clubhouse may not be the voice that you see most on TV.
Yeah. It's interesting to see just where a lot of the leadership dynamics come through. And, I remember like when we used to cover the Dodgers in the mid 2000s, like, there would be sections of the clubhouse that were largely speaking with each other in English, and then sections that were largely speaking with each other in Spanish. And you could see in the clubhouse, Rafael Furcal was, I think, one of the leaders of the team, period. But he was absolutely the leader among the Spanish-speaking players. Like, there was no question. Like, you would see him often holding court and guys very intently listening to everything he had to say.
And a lot of times, baseball being such a multinational game, even the Spanish-speaking players come from different countries and different cultures, and it's not just like one country. Where, and so like a lot of times you have players who serve as bridges between, or maybe you're an English-speaking, a native English speaker, an American player who speaks Spanish, and so you get these bridge players too to help make sure that your clubhouse isn't fragmented. And then there are, who was it that we used to cover, the player that like spoke with an interpreter or whatever, but very clearly spoke English. It's like, just like, yeah, I mean, know exactly what you're saying. And like, we could sit down and have a conversation. I'm just going to use my interpreter for, like a lot of times guys, particularly have been in an American professional league for a while. Their English is just fine. I would too. They get kind of the benefits of having, being from another part of the world.
Yeah, it's just going to be really interesting, I think, to see just the clubhouse dynamics shape in terms of leadership, in terms of personality, and then how the Dodgers go about marketing Ohtani and Yamamoto. I think is going to be really interesting to watch because, particularly in the case of Ohtani, marketing often comes down to personality, particularly when you're talking about athletes in sports. And Ohtani is somebody that has gone out of his way to avoid showing his personality and really showing anything about him at all. So it's
one person
fascinating to watch.
One person that doesn't mind showing their personality is our friend and yours, Clinton Yates.
I am Clinton. As overlord, all will kneel trembling before me and obey my brutal commands. End communication.
What's going on, gang? How we doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Just been taking in a lot of baseball news over the past couple days. It's been quite a lot, to be very honest. But on a better note, my dad was in town for an entire week, and that was about as fantastic as an experience that I've had all calendar year. Not even going to lie.
Is he a baseball guy like you?
He is a season ticket holder for the Nats back in D.C. He wasn't until I was an adult, but he likes the game. I wouldn't say he loves the game like I do, no. But he used to live in San Diego when I was a child, and my first actual sentient memories, I was telling the story before, of living life are when I was in Southern California in San Diego. So we went back down there, visited a bunch of his friends that he used to work with, tried to find his old apartment, which we figured was probably raised by now, but we had a really good time. And Southern California, man, made a little tour this weekend. It was fantastic. Well, last weekend. It was fantastic.
Has he spent a lot of time in L.A.?
Say it again?
Has he spent a lot of time in L.A.?
I wouldn't say a ton. He liked it because, I live close to the beach, and part of this was a big sort of relaxation effort for him. So he was really into the whole hotel sort of pool experience, which is always great because, dude, you know what the temperature is like on the East Coast right now, bro? It is awful. So, it was really good for him to be able to get away because he was like, I do not want to be cold for this whole week of the time. So came out here, had a blast. It was really awesome.
Now, am I correct? Did you get him not just mentioned, but was there actual FaceTime on Around the Horn with him?
Oh, yeah, buddy. Pops made it made sense. I was talking about something that related to DC. I brought my dad up as part of the conversation because he's a big part of my upbringing and why I like sports at all. And what was funny about it is that he didn't really realize what was going on because if any of you have ever sat in on a taping of Around the Horn, basically you use an earpiece. And the earpiece means that if somebody's sitting in the room with you, they can't hear what's going on. You see? So when I was like, hey, Pop, come here, get on the camera, he was just sort of doing what I asked him to do, and he could see everybody, and he just waved. He didn't know it really happened until we watched it on TV later. Well, he watched it by himself later because I had to go to the Ohtani presser randomly, and he was with my buddies, and he watched it at the bar, and they were all like, hey, big TV guy. It was a really fun moment. So
yeah. I don't remember exactly what the context was, but there was something where Brian and I were doing radio, and our dad and mom happened to be in town. And they happened to be able to, it might have been a remote, but attend this thing while we were on air.
Yeah.
It was so awesome for them to see in person. They're aware of what we do in the same way your dad is aware of what you do.
Sure.
But actually being able to see their kids do this thing is pretty amazing for them.
It's a totally different experience, and my favorite part of the whole deal was, so beforehand, I was going to makeup, and I was like, Pop, sit in the chair, put on the earpiece, put on the mic, and when you see Woody, say hello. And so my dad and Woodrow, Woody Page, for those of you who have watched Around the Horn for many years, they were basically, contemporaries. So, they were talking, just sort of making friends, and Woody said a couple of really nice things, and I wasn't even in the room. So that was a really cool part of it, is that not only did he get to see me doing something, he got to talk to a couple other people that he had grown to be a fan of over the years of watching the show. So, yes, completely fulfilling experience. And, as guys that get to do things that I would say relatively we like, you know what I'm saying, AK, for the most part? We enjoy our jobs. It's cool to be able to see your parents, to have your parents be able to see you do that. And this isn't the first time, but it's the first time he came to LA to see me do it. So, absolute blast.
We were talking earlier about the excitement with Yamamoto and it being really unique in the sense that it's something that has Dodger fans just through the roof and, baseball fans in general. It is exciting to see a pitcher like Yamamoto end up with an organization like the Dodgers, but it's unique in the sense that none of us have really seen him play before. It reminded me a little bit of the way the excitement built about Wembanyama, coming over from France. Like, how familiar, if at all, are you with Yamamoto?
So coming up later, once we start the show with Corporate Greg, I've got some sound from somebody who did play with him, who's talked about this. So a little tease there for you guys, bringing original content to the table, because that's what I do. I think it's a matter of this. I think it's a matter of whether or not who he is as a pitcher is going to fit into the needs of the Dodgers in basic in-game situational baseball with this team trying to win games. I don't think it's a matter of his stuff translating. I don't think it's a matter of whether or not the guy's going to be able to handle the moment. I think it's just a matter of, is the routine going to work for him in the same way for a team that week in and week out, because the schedule's a little bit different than in Japanese baseball, is trying to win as many games as possible. And you add on that pressure element too. I think that's a bigger thing. I'm not worried about the command. I'm not worried about his ability. I'm worried about whether or not this is all going to work, because there's a lot of moving parts from a chemistry standpoint with what that Dodger staff is right now for sure.
But they got a lot of time to figure it out. Like their team is so good. That last year we were noting this earlier, they were playing stretches of the season where dudes were pitching that even Greg, who you guys, going deep into the farm system, every prospect, and you're doing your podcast.
Who's this guy?
Who the hell is that? Where did they find this person?
To that point, I had no idea who Emmett Sheehan was until he was actually pitching in the
I
regular
kept
leagues.
calling him Ed Sheeran in my head. It's like
No. And I get it. I guess what I'm saying is my only worry would be that I'm not implying that I'm somehow worried about Yamamoto coming to the Dodgers.
Oh, sure. My only point there is there will be these rough moments. They're going to have a stretch where they lose 3 games in a row in a 162 game
Not
season.
acceptable. Completely unacceptable.
People are going to lose their minds. But
I'm joking,
last
Clinton.
year, I'm not. Last year they won 100 games with a team that was filled with anybody had ever heard of, and Max Muncy hitting 112 from half the year.
Right. He still had 35 home runs.
But they can make this work. And if Yamamoto they need to adjust things to get him more comfortable. They need to do whatever. If somebody gets hurt and you need an extra day, they can do all of these things.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of layers. I'm not worried about them being successful. It's just a matter of whether or not, let's be real here. You guys talk about championship or bust all the time. Sure, great. Win 100 games. Go for it. I hope that works out. It's just a matter of what type of baseball they're going to be able to play and whether or not, because, again, going into last season, there was already a question about the arms. Now, it's not the question in terms of the same kind of thing injury-wise. It's just, let's see what it is. There's still very much figuring out moment of who is actually going to settle into which spots in the rotation and where. And I think those are reasonable questions. That's the whole point of what spring training is for. That's the whole point of what the offseason is for.
And
sure.
Baseball is just so stupid that you could get into October and some random dude on the Diamondbacks is going to throw the game of his life, and all of a sudden you lose 1-0, and baseball is really stupid in that way. That's why they're not going to win.
And then
every year.
Ohtani Yamamoto era is a bust. It's a bust.
Oh, stop it.
Well,
and the
I'm sure we'll
are
get
one
more
of those-
into that, but I am curious to ask Greg about what his thoughts are regarding something I talk about all the time, which is expectation management. That's a real thing.
Oh, we're going to talk expectation management because I know what your expectations are and what you think mine are, so we'll get deep into that.
I have no idea. That's why I asked the question. Yeah. I'm a journalist, buddy, not a lawyer. I don't ask questions I already know the answer to.
I know your answer. That's what I'm saying.
No, you don't.
I think the bare minimum of...
I know that you know that I know.
I know that you know.
No, you don't know. That's why we're going to talk about it.
We've had these conversations.
I object.
Yeah.
I think the bare minimum of World Series that they need to win in the 10 years of Ohtani is 8.
Wow.
8 and 10 years. That makes perfect sense. And when it happens,
bare minimum.
All sweeps.
They probably, to really make this a success, they need to win 12.
In 10 years.
10
Yep.
years.
They have to win the WBC.
Well, they have to win the IST.
They have to play together.
They definitely need to win the IST.
They have to win the
yes,
IST.
Got to hang that band.
I
that has to
think
happen.
a couple Sugar Bowls would be good if they could win that.
All right, well, that's definitely something that's going to be broken down
For sure.
by Bergman and Clinton during Mason and Ireland. Super Crosstalk brought to you by In-N-Out, always fresh and made to order at In-N-Out. That's what a hamburger is all about. See everyone next time. Mason and Ireland, 710 ESPN. That's coming up.